Sixers, Flyers, Union, and the best Eagles talk in Philadelphia. 97.5 The Fanatic. Win $1,000 right now. 97.5 The Fanatic's Kelly Green Cash.
Yes, it is the Kelly Green Cash. 97.5 The Fanatic's Kelly Green Cash. Your chance to win $1,000 in a brand new 2023 Birds Kelly Green jersey. Just text the word CHARGE to 45911. That's the word CHARGE, CHARGE. Or you can enter on the Fanatic app or at 975thefanatic.com. One winner selected at random will win $1,000 in this company-wide contest. Winners will get a call from Beasley, so be sure to answer your phone. Complete rules at 975thefanatic.com. 97.5 The Fanatic's Kelly Green Cash is presented by Rand Spear, the accident lawyer. Demand Rand. Call 1-800-90-LEGAL. Please, never text and drive. Good luck. And a good Tuesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salchunas in for Anthony today. The Phillies, they beat the Braves yesterday, 7-1. Phils beat the Braves, 7-1. And we are so weird right now. I can't believe it. Connor Thomas producing the show today. Connor, last night, I'm sure you were watching the game just like I was.
Of course.
And the Phillies they're bashing, right? They go down 1-0 early. Zach Wheeler gives up a first inning run. And then the Phillies scored 7 unanswered. Wheeler goes 6 strong innings. Then the bullpen comes in, right? The bullpen that we freak out about. But we know that when they're on, they could be nasty. Gregory Soto, quick inning, 2 strikeouts. Strahm, an inning, strikeout. Covey, an inning, right? Even Covey. Britton Covey's the guy that can't return a punt more than 5 yards. Dylan Covey is the guy that doesn't really pitch very well for the Phillies, but even he gave you a shutout inning last night. So the Phillies beat the Braves, the almighty Atlanta Braves, the team that's going to make it all the way to the World Series. Doesn't matter what's going on. That's basically the message that I got in response from a lot of people last night. So we're going into this series against the Atlanta Braves. It's the last true test before the playoffs. You have a couple series with the Mets. You have a series with the Pirates. Right, it's a pretty easy road following this series with Atlanta. Phillies will be making the playoffs. They're not going to have some complete collapse. They're going to make the playoffs. The question is, can they still finish as that top seed? And even though there's been times where the Phillies have played below 500 in a 10-game clip, so have the teams behind them. Chicago Cubs, the team that a lot of people were worried about, that they're going to be hot coming into the playoffs. They've since cooled off. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they're kind of heating up again, but they were red hot at the start of the season and completely fell off the table. There's a chance that they could have won the division. I don't think that was ever going to really happen, but they were head-to-head with the Dodgers through the first half of the season. So the Phillies have a win last night, a win where I think it's a statement win. You're in Atlanta. You're going up against a team that has been at the top of the league since the beginning of the season. But all I want to do is look back to 1 year ago when the Phillies faced the Atlanta Braves in the NLDS. Remember, Phillies get by the Cardinals. 8th inning, 9th inning, game 1 against Cardinals. They put together some runs. They end up winning game 1. They win game 2. Then they go to Atlanta. And they take game 1. They lose game 2. They come back to Philadelphia. The Phillies eventually win that series. All season long, this year, every pundit that you have heard talk about the Phillies, they have said the same thing. And I bet you the Braves don't want to see him in the playoffs. Buster Olney had him on right around the trade deadline. He told me that the Phillies were better suited in a series than the Atlanta Braves. Yeah, the Braves have ridiculous bats. So do the Phillies. Rotation and bullpen. Obviously, starting pitching advantage Atlanta, but the bullpen, even though it's been crazy this year and it's been up and down, the bullpen, the strength of the bullpen is stronger for the Phillies than it is the Braves. The Braves bullpen is not much. Everybody goes, the Phillies bullpen stinks. The Braves bullpen isn't that great. So the Phillies go in there last night and they win. And my first thought was, oh man, if I'm a Braves fan right now, I am freaking out. I just watched the Phillies come into my hometown after Ronald Acuna Jr., which I really didn't have much of a problem with it. But remember the moment Ronald Acuna Jr. hits the home run. He does the birds flapping, and then there's guys in the Braves dugout doing the birds flapping. The Eagles, blah, blah, blah. And there, people were talking about how that was disrespectful. Whatever. I enjoy flair in baseball. I think the game needs it. But put that aside. My personal feeling for it. The Braves go into Philadelphia. They do their thing. They mock the Eagles or they mock the city of Philadelphia. And then the Phillies take game one in Atlanta in a big way, winning 7-1. And so for me, that's a statement win. For me, if I'm a Braves fan, I'm freaking out and I'm thinking about the playoffs last year. If I'm any member of the Braves roster that was a part of last year's playoffs, where they were supposed to be the top team coming out of the National League, they lose. If I'm anybody on the Braves roster that was on it last year, that's on it again this year, I'm having a similar thought to what Braves fans are thinking. And yet last night, I go on social media, and what I thought would be a nice tweet. It's a good statement win for the Phillies, right? You go into hometown, you go into the Braves, and now Braves fans and Braves players are probably thinking, oh man, not this again. And Connor, I got pushback. I get it. Twitter's a gross place. It could also be a nice place. It could be a place where we celebrate together when things are going well, right? When the Eagles are doing well, we're all together. We're all partying together. Same with the Sixers, right? The whole play the song. It blows up. I thought last night would be a nice celebratory night. And yet, the phone vibrates a couple more times. And I'm seeing responses where I'm the lunatic. Connor, I don't get it. To me, this is one of those games where you go, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, will it mean all that much? Probably not. It's a regular season game. Braves aren't going anywhere. They're the number one seed in the playoffs. But when the two teams face each other in the playoffs, that might be in Atlanta's mind.
Yeah, I mean, how could it not be? It's not that it gives the Phillies any definite advantage on the field, right? The Braves are still going to be a really, really good team. It's still tough to go on the road and win postseason games in any sport. All that stuff still exists, right? That doesn't make up. That wasn't a 15-win last night. There's still a huge gap between these teams, over 162. But if that doesn't prove to you that over 5 games these teams can play with each other, they're close in offense. The Phillies pitching staff on any given day might be better. It might be worse. That's how postseason baseball works. All you need is to be comparable to the other team. And besides the record, these teams are pretty darn comparable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at just the last series, the Braves did take 3 of 4. We know that. But it was a 10-8 final. Then the Phillies win 7-5. Then the Braves win 7-6. In the final game, the Braves win 4-1. That was the last series in Philadelphia. Those were great games.
Yeah,
fun to watch.
Extra inning games there. Those are as tight as it gets.
And as I mentioned, the Braves bullpen isn't that good. The Braves had a lead in all of those. And the Phillies would come back and tie it or take the lead. Unfortunately, the Phillies bullpen wasn't pitching that well either. But the Braves have a nasty lineup. So you see what that lineup can do. But then again, the Phillies shut them down last night. And so what I'm very curious about, and I kind of asked this question yesterday, but I think today's a better day to repurpose it. What is your attitude with this team? Because I'm very confused. A good win like that last night makes me feel better about going into the playoffs. If they drop the next 2, 10-0 both games, but all I can base my opinion on today is what happened last night. And that was a good, dominant win in Atlanta, a team that you pretty much expect to see in the second round of the playoffs unless the Phillies have a complete collapse in the wild card round. Because if they lose, no matter who they face in the wild card round, it is a complete collapse. The Phillies will be the better team on paper going to any series. You got to win game 1, right? The Zach Wheeler start, you got to win game 1, and you hope that Nola can take care of business game 2. But when you face the Braves in the second round of the playoffs, a win like last night puts good thoughts in the Phillies' minds and puts bad thoughts in the Braves' minds and the Braves fans' minds. But what I don't understand is the Phillies fans' mentality from last night that were kind of shooting down my excitement. So I want to ask you this question at 610-632-0975. What is your deal? What is your attitude with this team, and why is it such a bad attitude? Because we've seen good moments this year. The Trey Turner standing ovation, that was an incredible moment where Phillies fans came together.
By the way, he's hit 380 since then.
Right, it's worked. And did everybody agree with it? No. Hand raised. I didn't, and my reasoning was if it didn't work those two nights, then what? Are you just going to start booing the guy again?
Luckily, we don't have to find out.
Exactly. So things have gone well. We have seen great moments. I know Michael Lorenzen hasn't been the same since the no-hitter, but I was there that night. There was only 30,000 people there that night, and it sounded like it was a playoff game where it was a sold-out crowd. You know what Philadelphia can be like come Red October. The Braves players know what Philadelphia can be like come Red October. So I think that last night's a win where if you're a Braves player going, oh, man, we can't count these guys out. But for some reason, a lot of you are counting out the Phillies. And why is that? Next segment, I'm going to read some of the tweets that I got yesterday. And it wasn't just like, shut up. It was like long tweets explaining why things aren't good and why you shouldn't get excited. Like, man, we are so down in the dumps with this Phillies team 1 year after they got to the World Series when you were down in the dumps going into the playoffs. They get swept by the Cubs. They sneak into the playoffs. They beat the Cardinals, and the rest is history. They get to the World Series. They unfortunately lose in Game 6. But last night, that's one of those games where I go, all right, this team is still dangerous. And all you have to do is get in, which they will. And once they get in, look out. You get hot at the right time, this team can put up runs. The starting pitchers went on, can pitch well, and the bullpen went on. And I know it's been a crazy season. They can be dangerous. So I want to hear what I don't want to say your problem is, but what's your attitude with this team? Because for me, as ugly as the season it's been, I know how ugly it was last year. And I know what the result was. It got to the World Series, and they took down the Braves. And the Braves are similar to last year, maybe a little bit more dominant this year, but similar to last year where they were supposed to be the team to make the long run in the playoffs coming out of the National League. 610-632-0975. So we're starting off with the Phillies. Of course, we're going to get into some Eagles stuff. We're going to get into the NFL. Some big news yesterday about the NFL and the NFL Players Association. And, of course, the Sixers signed Kelly Oubre. Can't wait to talk about that because he is a player that, believe it or not, you are allowed to have on your roster. I'll explain more coming up. 610-632-0975. I'm Andrew Salchunas right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Now, let me tell you about Meineke. Meineke's got you covered. They got semi-synthetic oil changes starting at $29.95. They got full synthetic oil changes starting at $59.95. It was great. I was driving in this morning. I checked to see how many miles I've put on since my last oil change, and I'm halfway there. But I know next time I need my oil change, I can go to Meineke. Is your car warning bell dinging? Check engine light on. That ding or that light, it can mean a number of things. It could look like Christmas in your car. That's a bad thing, all right? It could be something as simple as a loose gas cap, or it could be something much more serious, and you may need attention right away because we know how important our cars are. We talk about phones all the time. We look at our phones every day. We couldn't live without it. You can't live without your car, most of you. So find out your local Meineke. Right now, save $10 when you spend $50, $20 when you spend $100, and $50 when you spend $400 or more. Bad brakes, well, they might be making you break your personal swear jar record. Give your brakes and your budget a break with 50% off brake pads and shoes at your local Meineke Car Care Center. And did you know that all Meinekes are locally owned and operated? We always love shopping local here during the show. So find out more information about your local Meineke Service Center or to schedule your service appointment today, go to Meineke.com. Meineke for tires, brakes, batteries, exhaust, and more. Meineke, doing car care right.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A homer party for the Phil.
season. I know we're all eagled up, as we should be. Eagles are 2-0. We have Super Bowl expectations. But we also forgot that the Phillies have World Series expectations going into the season. And as ugly as it's been at times this year, I just say look back at last season. And I don't know how that's a bad response, right? Like, I know it's hard to recreate magic. The Eagles almost recreated magic with Nick Foles if Alshon Jeffrey doesn't drop it against the New Orleans Saints, right? They almost recreated magic. I think they go up against the Rams. Doug Peterson had Sean McVay's number. They beat the Rams, and now it's a rematch, Eagles-Patriots in the Super Bowl. Back-to-back years. How awesome would that have been? The Phillies should make the playoffs. Will make the playoffs.
Will.
Should have the top wild card spot.
Will.
Should make it to the National League Divisional Series.
Probably will.
And we'll take on the Atlanta Braves. And then we see what happens all over again. And last night, I'm saying that last night was a statement win for the Phillies. And here's why. I'll just repeat what I said to start. The Braves players and the Braves fans know exactly what happened last year when their World Series expectations were shot down by the Phillies in 4 games. And the Phillies went in game 1 in Atlanta and took game 1. And it's going to be the same situation where the Braves will be coming off a bye. And the Phillies, hopefully, will be hot going into that series. So last night, I put out the tweet. I said the following. Now, that is a statement win by the Phillies. Atlanta Braves players and fans must be having awful flashbacks right now to last postseason. Pretty simple, because I think that's true. Like, if you're a Braves player, you know how talented this roster is. Like, Bryce Harper's on the Phillies, okay? Kyle Schwarber's about to have 45 home runs and 100 RBIs this season. I don't like him in the leadoff hole. I don't like how much he strikes out. I don't like that he comes up small. It seems like in big spots sometimes. But the guy's got 45 home runs and will have over 100 RBI on the season. Like, that's dangerous. Nick Castellanos is dangerous. Alec Bohm, we had a caller yesterday say, did you realize that Bohm has 91 RBI this year? Yeah, I do. Because I've been watching every single night. And the guy just drives and runs when the guys are on base. Connor, you talked about Trey Turner since the standing ovation. The guy's been electric. The Braves players know that. The Braves fans know that. And they, of course, know that their team is very good. But they know that the Phillies are a very good team, and that could be a collision in the second round of the playoffs. So I put out that tweet last night, and immediately responses come in. Frank checks in. Just Frank. Nah, they're resting. Still love the Phillies whittling down that magic number, though. Okay. They're resting.
What do you mean they're resting?
The Braves starting lineup last night. Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Marcelo Zuna, Eddie Rosario. Kevin Pillar came in for Rosario as a defensive replacement. Sean Murphy, Orlando Arcia, Michael Harris II. Connor, if I'm not mistaken, that's been their starting lineup pretty much the entire season where they've won 96 games.
Yeah, that or Darno starting at catcher is like the only difference. And those guys flip-flop.
All
They're
right,
not resting.
So they did not rest anybody yesterday. Unless he thinks that they went through the motions yesterday, which no professional athlete really does that in Major League Baseball. You get limited at bats. You're going up there and hacking. If a ball's hit to the corner, your instincts are to go after and get the baseball, right? If there's a ball to your left and you need to dive for it, your instincts are to dive for it. You're not thinking, oh, but the playoffs are around the corner. I don't want to dive for this one.
I don't know. I thought Acuna could have brought back Kyle Schwarber's home run if he was actually trying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So no, they're not resting anyone. Now, somebody did point out at the start of the show that they faced Kyle Wright, which that's true. Kyle Wright's been bad this year. And they beat him up, and Kyle Wright's not going to be the game 1 or 2 starter for the Atlanta Braves. But Zach Wheeler, on the flip side, held the Braves offense to 1 run. The offense that was not rested, right? Like, that was the legitimate Atlanta Braves lineup that has got them close to 100 wins this season. And the Phillies bullpen came down and shut the door as well. Lee checks in last night. Woof, Chunas. Phils need a win, and the Braves don't care. I think it is silly to not care, but this is a human aspect of the game. There is a backhanded advantage to it, but this was by no means a statement Phils win, in my opinion. I look at it as they went into Atlanta, where they're going to have to go to start the second round of the playoffs, just like they did last year, and they reminded everybody in Atlanta, hey, this is what we can do, and this is what we can do against you guys like we did last year.
Exactly.
So how's that not a statement win?
I don't get what people are watching. Like, I really don't. You understand? Like, to me, this series is bigger than the 4-game series you just played at Citizens Bank Park, because we know that the Phillies can win at the bank in October. We know this is I'm going to say this, and if there are other fans of other teams listening, they might disagree, but they're flat out wrong. Citizens Bank Park is the toughest stadium to play in October in baseball. It is. That's factual to me, and you will not convince me otherwise. So I'm not worried about home series the Phillies have the rest of the regular season. If you prove you can go on the road and beat this Braves team, they're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Norman checks in. How's this a statement win? Did you watch the last series? Since the Braves won the division, they've been chilling. Not a statement win at all. This is not a meaningful series for the Braves at all. I did watch the last series, and I talked about at the start of the show. I watched the Phillies team that would go down and fight back every single time because the Braves bullpen is not good. Just like the Phillies bullpen has been shaky, the Braves bullpen is not good. And the Phillies showed that they could come back in those games. And they can go toe-to-toe with one of the best offenses in Major League Baseball. For the Normans of the world, Bailey, Frank, Lee, for all those responses from last night, and there's more, I just haven't gotten to them yet. Going into this season, I guarantee you said at some point, wow, Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Stott, Realmuto, Castellanos, Marsh, Rojas, but whatever, can compare to that Braves lineup. Maybe the Braves lineup will be better, which I think we all said, and it is true, but you can't count out that lineup in any game. And that's the lineup that you're going to be throwing out there in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. And the thing you've got to look at is not what people get too caught up in the 162, and they give up too early on teams that still have the opportunity to win in the postseason. Like the Phillies, you might look at their record, and you might look at the numbers and compare it to the Braves and say that lineup's significantly better. Mm-hmm. You have to understand, Trey Turner is playing it like if he had played this way all season, I know that's a big if, but if he had played this way all season, he'd be hitting like 330 with probably 40 home runs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane level of production. Like there are guys that are playing well in this lineup right now that have not over 162, but you're not playing the Braves for 162. You're playing them for 5.
Yep.
It's not a difficult stretch to make to say the Phillies can compete with this team, and last night proved it.
And how many times do we have to say, we just saw it last year.
Right.
We just saw it last year. And I feel like I've been saying this since opening day when things start off kind of shaky for the Phillies. We just saw this exact same moment last year where, this team is flawed, right? Like Kyle Schwarber is not a traditional leadoff hitter, and he's the leadoff hitter on this team. The bullpen has been shaky, even though you put a lot of stock into it. The rotation, who knows? You have guys that can go 4 or 5 innings and be really good, but the second they go that extra inning, it falls apart on them. There are flaws on this team, but ultimately, what this team can do when they're hot. And if they go into the playoffs hot, or if they win the first series, that means they're on a little bit of a roll, and the Atlanta Braves are coming off a bye. So I don't see why that shouldn't be celebrated still. I know for a fact that the second Red October starts, like you said, one of the best home field advantages in all of baseball.
The best.
The best. The second that wild card series starts, and fortunately the Phillies will be the number one team, hopefully the number one team, so they will have the home game series in the wild card. That place is going to be electric. Remember all the alerts people were getting on their phones last year that you should probably leave the area because it was not safe for your ears?
Yeah.
Right? Like there was sound waves. I remember I think it was Penn State Altoona's campus, which is, near the Chickies and Pete's in Malvern, where we used to do the show on Fridays last year. They registered, they had sound meters registering, not all the way out there, but they had some sort of device, and you could see the spikes from when good things were happening with the Phillies. That's all going to be back. Like, nobody's going to be quiet going into the wild card series because the Braves are looming. No, if anything, we're going to get even chestier after winning the wild card series. Brandon checks in. An Atlanta Braves fan checked in last night.
Boo.
Nope. We're just waiting for the postseason. We already have a bye. It's funny your fan base thinks because y'all had a great run at the end, which it was great, that you'll just duplicate that again. That's the exact assumption that will get you booted in the wild card round. Well, Brandon, you mentioned the bye. You had a bye last year. And what did that do for you? You lost game 1, and the Phillies had home field advantage coming back. So, Mr. Braves fan, Mr. Brandon, and this is when Phillies fans should have my back here. If a Braves fan is in the mentions trying to tell us that we're going to get booted in the wild card round, like, come on. All I'm saying is, and I feel like I'm back to last year during the damn Tunis train trying to like beg you to support the Phillies. And I know everybody's watching, so it's not that they're not watching. We're about to go into the playoffs in, 12 games?
Yep.
That's less than 2 weeks. Well, there will be 2 weeks, but you get what I'm saying. In 12 games, the regular season will come to an end, and the Phillies are going back into the playoffs. And all I say is get on board and have this team's back and get ready to roll again in October and get ready to get fired up in the wild card round again. And when it comes to the Atlanta Braves, screw them. Yeah, they're a good team. Phillies on paper should be better. They haven't been all season long, but when you still look at it, they're going to win close to 90 games. That's exactly where they were at last year.
I mean, you're looking at a better spot than you were last year. And here's the thing, right? It's not that I don't think fans are going to come around on this team. We know the environment's going to be there. We know people are going to be all in come postseason. It's just so annoying watching all these games of this team and seeing this talented of a lineup and seeing them improve on their playoff standing compared to last year and having to drag people along to get in on this team. It's almost like people don't want them to succeed. I know I'm not saying you're rooting against the Phillies, but it's just like I know you went to the World Series last year, but we were ecstatic that they even made it in. And now over the course of a season, we're upset that they're a top wild card seed because the Braves are good? Because it's a little annoying the way they lose games sometimes? I mean, they're still a super talented team. They're better than last year's team.
Yes.
How are we not bought in on this year's team?
I don't get it. And Eric makes a great point just now on Twitter. You know the Braves don't want the Phillies to have momentum. It would not be smart to let the Phillies win.
Yeah, you don't want them to get hot going in.
If the Braves, and now that's a great message. Thank you, Eric. To all the naysayers out there, to all the doubters out there, if the Braves let the Phillies get hot, and then the Phillies have some easier series after this one, leading into the playoffs, let's say they win. So last night was 13 games left in the regular season. What if they go 10-3 going into the playoffs? Do I expect that to happen? No, because it's been that kind of a year for the Phillies.
Right.
But what if they go 10-3? And it starts off with a 2 out of 3 series against the Braves. Or they go 9-4, and it starts with taking 2 out of 3 against the Braves. That's going to let the Phillies team feel good going into the playoffs, in which they will now host the wild card round. And the Atlanta Braves will have to sit on their hands for a few days because they have the bye, and they're going to come off a little cold. And remember, we saw this with the Phillies before, too, where the Phillies locked things up early in 2011. And what happened? They got bounced in the first round. We said this exact same stuff verbatim last year. Why can't we just put our heads back in that spot? Especially now that we saw it. I get there were a lot of people last year that didn't want to believe it because, I mean, I don't blame you. It was an ugly way to end the season last year. And you backed your way in because the Brewers collapsed more than the Phillies collapsed. But now that we have history on our side, and I'm not saying going back 40 years. I'm saying going back a year. Not even a full year. Like, you don't have to go that far back to go, all right, it's worked before for the Phillies. So why wouldn't you be a little bit more on board?
I don't get it at all. And all the people who think the Braves aren't playing hard or are resting or anything right now, there's only 3 options why they would be able to do that, why they would be doing this resting. And we know they're not, but let's just run through them real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Option 1 is they've already clinched the division and a first-round bye and everything, so they're resting because it doesn't matter. That's dumb because, 1, they still have to fight for the top seed in the National League, and number 2 on that is you don't want the Phillies to get momentum like we just talked about. There's only one other option, and I don't think this is the case, but it goes directly in the face of the people who are saying, oh, the Braves aren't trying. There'd be one valid reason why the Braves would not want to win baseball games right now, and it would be that they're ducking the Philadelphia Phillies in the second round of the postseason. I don't think that's the thing.
I don't think so either.
But I'm just saying, that would be the only reason, is that they don't want to play this team, and that goes directly in the face of all the people saying that, oh, the Phillies can't play with the Braves. They're not trying to lose games. They're not trying to win games. They are fighting for postseason positioning.
They played
still.
every starter yesterday.
Yes, it's nonsensical to think that the Braves are not trying to win these games.
Acuna's not swinging at 75% when he's swinging. No.
No.
Because he's a player, man. He wants to try to put up numbers, too. He's having an incredible season. There's 2 MVP candidates on this squad.
They're heading for all-time great offensive numbers.
Yes.
They're not lying down.
All right, now here's one more potential reason. And I really want to break this down. And this is from my man Andrew Ellis on Twitter. And I get it. It was hard. I do. But I like to look at it from a different perspective, a different way. So Andrew on Twitter gives his reason why. Maybe not his specific reason why, but why the masses feel the way that they do. Every negative, because the Eagles lost the Super Bowl. The Phillies lost the World Series. The Union lost in their championship. The Sixers blew a second round again. The positive vibes have been ripped from us. That's why people aren't excited about the Phillies yet. Maybe. That's what he says. Listen, Drew, I get it. I do. I lived it. I'd have come on the air the next day after all those things, right? You think I wanted to come on the air the day after the Eagles lost the Super Bowl? No. Think I wanted to come on the air the day after the Phillies lost the World Series? No. The Union? No. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I definitely didn't want to talk about the Sixers having the lead with 5 minutes left in Game 6 against the Boston Celtics and then not even showing up Game 7 on Mother's Day. I didn't want to come on the air and talk about those things. But what I do is I take a step back and I go, you know what could be worse? The Eagles not getting to the Super Bowl and the Phillies not getting to the World Series and the Union not getting to the championship and the Sixers, let's just say, not making the playoffs, period, or losing in the first round, right?
I might take that at this point.
I hear you. Mentally, it might be easier for you. But when I look at what happened last year and I look at the teams, they're not done yet. Like the Phillies, that wasn't a last chance. The Eagles, that wasn't their last chance. The Sixers, we'll see. The Union, we'll see. I know the Union have had a little bit more of a disappointing this season this year. But for the most part, I look at those as positives. Not the fact that they lost, but I look at the fact that they were there as positives because it shows the talent on these teams. And as Connor said earlier, this Phillies team is now even more talented than last year's Phillies team. So, yeah, I know it was hard, and I know we got beat up for it. But I got to say, I'd rather my teams get that close than not.
Last year was the best Philadelphia sports year of our lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's not even a close second for people in our generation. Mm-hmm. So you know what you do? You pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, you get over it, and you realize these teams are still good. I don't care about the championship losses anymore. Like, yeah, they hurt. That sucked.
They sucked.
Would have loved to get one, would have loved to get all. But they didn't. It doesn't mean the teams now stink or are cursed or anything. Like, we're back to that point of the year. We're back to Eagle season. They've got to win games. We're back to Red October coming up in a couple weeks. Like, we're about to start Sixers basketball, Flyers hockey. Like,
yep.
Get back on the horse, folks. There's no more 2022 championship, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to, I hate to say it, to put it behind you. And you should probably do that right when the season starts.
Well, kind of.
It's a new story.
It is, but I understand if people, like, still held on to the Super Bowl loss a little bit right now.
All right, fine. Well, then when it comes to the Phillies, it's been a long time removed now.
Yeah, the Phillies, you should be over it.
Get over it, and hope they can get back, and hopefully they win it this year. 610-632-0975. Just to clarify, Andrew has followed up. He said he was speaking for the masses, not himself. He's pumped up for the Phillies this year. Thank you, Andrew. Mark, I see that you want to talk about the Phillies, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say because I think you're right. Also, coming up next, a little recap of last night's scary, scary moment in Cleveland. Just a terrible injury. And with the news that happened yesterday, it's crazy how it all played out. We have the Vault coming up at 11 o'clock. Jeff McClain will be joining the show at 11:30 to talk about the Eagles and their Week 2 win, their 2-0 start. And, of course, that we turn our attention to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Week 3, Monday Night Football in Tampa. Got a lot for you in store today right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Phil, show off the power. I'm Connor Thomas. This update is brought to you by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Well, here's a hint. Fall finds for $25 and under, like sharp blazers, cozy sweaters, cargo pants, jackets, and more. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you. The Phils beat the Braves in Atlanta 7-1 last night. It included 5 home runs from your fighting Phils, and there was a
7-5, The Fanatic.
10:49, 97.5 The Fanatic. We got the Vault coming up in 10 minutes. Going to get to Mark in South Jersey in a second, who wants to talk about the Atlanta Braves and how I think Mark's more on my side when it comes to this, where we should just feel good about the Phillies going to the playoffs and stop trying to find out every reason why that they're not going to do anything and how last night meant nothing to you. Last night, I think, was a statement win for the Phillies in Atlanta. But real quick, there's a report, Connor. I love this. Developing. It's from that Ari Myrov guy.
Okay, what do we got?
Developing. The XFL and USFL are nearing an agreement to merge operations per Axios. An announcement of the deal could come as early as this week.
Wow.
Huge news for spring football. All right, so it's going to go from trash to, like, mediocre? Trash to still below average?
I can hear tens of fans rejoicing.
And this is why they're saying huge news, right? Because now the talent pool, instead of having two leagues, will merge into one league. And so you'll have the best of the best that aren't good enough to play in the NFL.
The best of the fourth best in the continent? I don't know.
I find it so funny. You can't have another football league. It's not worth. The NFL is too big that there's nothing that you can create to try to make it even close to being entertaining.
You can't have another anything league. The four major sports are locked down. Okay, there's no competing league.
I like the FIBA tournament during the off season.
Yeah, but that's not a competing league.
Right, it's not. Right,
You
exactly.
can have other stuff. I like
drafts,
college basketball.
You're drafted. I mean, like, teams are getting excited that they drafted Clayton Thorson. Like, think about that for a second. Like, Ben DiNucci was on one of these rosters last year. We saw Ben DiNucci here in Philadelphia not that long ago, and he was trash, and he's a starting quarterback in these leagues. It's just, it's funny to me when I see that. I want to get into the action that happened last night, but first, let's go to Mark in South Jersey. Mark, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
What's up, Mark?
Hey, so I am kind of on board with you. I thought a little bit about are the Braves ducking us for the second round, but I don't really think that's the case. I mean, there may be some players that feel that way. I was there last year in the Spencer Strider game where we smoked them.
Yep, I was there too.
The stadium was shaking. They were all of us were screaming. I was right in the section in right field where Marsh hit that 2-run bomb.
Nice.
It was like 5 seats to the right of me. So it was my son, who's 25 now. It was his first playoff experience with the Phillies. And we left there. He's like, I've never seen anything like this. I'm like, I told you, it's not. I was there for Jimmy's walk-off double. I'm like, it's not the same environment that you've grown up in. So I don't think they're ducking us. What I think is it's a psyche thing. And I know we're facing Strider tonight, but I can see a couple mustache twitching coming tonight because I think that we're getting into that mode right now where we're just hitting the ball, whether it's going out of the park, but we're squaring balls up. I mean, Castellanos, all year long we talked about, oh, well, this player's not doing this, and that's not – and we're talking about Schwarber hitting 170. I'm upset about it, too, in the moment of the season. But guess what? We're about 2 weeks away from all that resetting, and it doesn't matter what he hit in July. What matters is he's raking the ball in October, and nobody wants to face him. And he's getting on base at a 360 clip, and Harper is probably the most clutch player in Philly sports history.
Yep.
So all of these things combined, and our rotation, and you guys tell me what you think, but I think our rotation is probably Wheeler, Nola, Ranger, Sanchez, with Strom and probably a long man out of the bullpen, and probably Walker a long man out of the bullpen, because right now Walker seems to be susceptible to that Rav fourth inning, too. So I don't know if I want him starting.
The Rav fourth inning, man, it freaks us all out. I'm pretty sure Thompson did give out the rotation, and he said Wheeler, Nola, Ranger, Walker. So Sanchez is not in his plans.
Oof. Well, you know what? Maybe Sanchez is Ranger from last year. Remember Ranger last year? We weren't.
That's what I'm holding on to. Yeah, I'm holding on to that, Mark, and thanks for the call, because I've seen Ranger Suarez in big outings.
Yeah.
And just unfazed by everything. His last outing against it was against the Cardinals. Let me see. I want to pull up his line because it wasn't like dominant. It was the one that I think they won 6-1 that night. Yeah. So he goes 6 innings, 4 hits, 4 walks, which that's different for Ranger. Ranger's not a guy that walks a lot of guys. 4 hits, 4 walks, 5 Ks, 1 earned run. Phils win 6-1 that game. I know the Cardinals have been a mess this year. But I had a moment. And so this was Saturday night. This is when my buddies came over, right? So put Coop to bed. My buddies came over. We watched the Phillies game on the projector out back. Then moved over to a little Mario Kart, little Beerio Kart, and then to the Colorado State game. But I saw Ranger fielding one of those ground balls. It was guy hits a sharp one hopper back up the middle, and he just snags it and cools a cucumber, flips the ball over to first base. And I'm not lying to you. I'm not like saying this for radio fodder. When I saw that play happen, I said, yeah, dude, I still feel so much confidence in this guy.
Yeah.
And I know that was just a ground out. And it meant really nothing in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the game. But that cool nature of his, that I kind of got reminded of it the other night.
Here's the thing with Ranger Suarez, right? Was he consistently good this year? No. Did he deal with injuries right off the bat? Absolutely. And the one thing I'll always go back to, he had an over 100-inning season where he had a sub-2 ERA. That's not an anomaly.
Yeah.
It's not. That's incredibly good pitching. It doesn't mean he's always going to be that guy, but it means he can be, and that guy's valuable. And here's the thing with the Taijuan Walker, Christopher Sanchez thing, right? Does Sanchez deserve to be a starting pitcher in a playoff rotation? Yes, he does. He's been good enough this year. But it's a fight that I have with my brother all the time. My brother's 6'4", my younger brother. And we'll play pickup sports. And we'll be playing like basketball. And he'll want to bring the ball up the floor. I'm like, dude, you're taller than everybody else that we have on our team. I understand you can do this. But you're also like, I can't go in the post. I'm barely 6 foot.
Right.
And I'm only saying that because we're live on air. Like, he can do both. So you've got to do the one that other people can't do. Taijuan Walker's not going to the pen. He's not.
No, he's not.
He's not a relief pitcher. He's not been a relief pitcher. He's not going to be a relief pitcher.
And that's why you trade for Lorenzen.
Exactly.
He's a guy that can do both.
And Sanchez has done both at the major league level when he was coming up and getting settled in. So should Sanchez be a starting pitcher for this team? Yes. But he can do both, and Walker can't, and that's why he's going to end up in the pen.
Yeah, and then it's short leashes. Now, the funny thing is for Walker, what's a short leash for him? Because it's
8 innings.
Yeah, no, but he usually gives up 3 runs in the first inning.
Yeah, right.
Right, so it's not like it'll be any different come playoff time.
He goes long, dude.
Yeah, he does. He's an innings eater, and it's actually been pretty big for them this year. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens come playoff time. But yeah, Thompson said Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and then Walker. We got the Vol in a couple minutes. Real quick, the games last night, the Panthers-Saints game, just kind of hideous. But then the Browns-Steelers game was fun. But, man, that Nick Chubb injury. Did you see the close-up? Because they didn't show it on TV.
Yeah, but I got really mad at a buddy because he texted it in our fantasy football group chat. I'm like, why would you send that?
Okay, let me ask you something. That stuff doesn't bother me. Like, I don't get the queasy. I don't get the
No, but I just didn't need to see it.
I got you. I'm trying to think, like, because somebody put out a tweet this morning that didn't make me laugh, but you'll get what I'm saying here. Joe Buck, during the call yesterday, was like, we've been told it's too gruesome to show or whatever. And then somebody responded with, well, you guys showed us DeMar Hamlin die like 50 times. In between Burger King commercials. Remember the BK Have Your Way commercials? Literally, like, DeMar Hamlin's dead on the field, and then it was Whopper, double Whopper, right? And then they go back, and they're showing the replays, and it's interesting what is the line of showing the replays. Like, Hamlin didn't look gruesome. The Chubb looks more gruesome because of the way the leg was bent. But we know what happened to DeMar Hamlin on the field. I don't know. Like, I almost usually they do the whole we're going to show you the replay if you don't like turn your eyes now. I feel like that's what they still should do.
I guess.
I think of it as a producer. As a producer, I know it's radio, it's different than TV.
Right, but I never
we talk about it.
I never got this whole not showing the replay of the injury. Like, I don't understand it. Like, just look away from the TV screen. It's a production of the game.
Yes.
Like, they are broadcasting to you what happens. I understand that there's some things that make people uneasy to see, but it's their job to broadcast it. So I've never really been in the camp of blaming people for showing stuff. I think that's their job, and they're doing it. But I also kind of get why it would bother some people. It's a very
I get why it would bother somebody, and like you said, that's when you make the announcement, hey, we're about to show the replay, turn your head.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think they shouldn't show it.
Because it is part of the story of the game. And,
Right.
I get it. This is somebody's life that just got affected in a big way. But
they're not, making fun of it. They're not, exploiting it.
exactly.
I mean, it's just, the guy got paid to go out there. He unfortunately got injured. We're going to show you what happened.
Right.
He took on the risk, and it
I was just surprised that they didn't show it yesterday, because what did I do? I went to Twitter, and I was like,
You
all
went
right,
and looked for it.
I want to see, just how bad was it? And, that might be terrible to do, but
no, it's natural. I did it. Remember when Embiid broke his pinky sideways or whatever it was in one of those games?
Fingers and toes, bro.
No, you're no fingers and toes.
Nope.
See, I'll go look at fingers and toes. The knees bother me.
Nope.
The joints bother me.
I can watch Kevin Ware's bone pop out of his shin.
Jesus, Andrew.
Doesn't bother me. But dude, his second of fingers messed up. I shook Baldy's hand once, and I almost puked on impact. I've broken my same toe 4 times. It doesn't bend anymore. So that kind of freaks me out.
You should probably stop doing that.
Yeah. Same exact day, 1 year apart. New Year's Eve.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy.
Snap.
And this is when I was a kid, so not I wasn't being a drunken fool. But anyways, so I was surprised I didn't show it yesterday, but that sucks. Nick Chubb, obviously we know what happened to him at Georgia, that injury. It was a terrible injury. We know how incredible of a back that he is, and who knows how long of a recovery it's going to be for him after this one last night. So that really sucked. And speaking of running backs and injuries, there was a lawsuit yesterday that we're going to get to later on this hour, because I found it interesting, and I always side with players when it comes to money. But I had this debate with Jamie not that long ago. What do you expect the NFL to do different? We'll get into this later on, but it's 11 o'clock, time now for the Vault.
When we began opening this vault nearly 2 hours ago, we had no real idea what we'd find inside. As it turns out, we haven't found very much.
The Vault, presented by Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Connor, what do we have today?
We have a baseball-heavy vault today. Birthdays, events, all that stuff. Now, this is really the point of the baseball season where a lot of milestones get made as you come down to the end. So it makes sense, but we're going to start off with something back in 1947. Do you know, off the top of your head, 1947, the end-of-the-year awards?
My guess is Babe Ruth MVP.
Incorrect. Well, maybe correct. But not where I'm
Grover
going.
Cleveland Alexander.
Nope. We're going with one Jackie Robinson, won Rookie of the Year on this day in 1947. It's an award now named for him in the American League. Let's listen to a highlight from that season.
Robinson, Reese, Hodges, double play. That is double play number 4 for the Dodgers in the series, and it's the 10th double play we've had all the way through.
Great defensively, great offensively. I mean, he was just getting started, so the pickings are slim for the highlights from 47. But
Do you think Gus Johnson would have been hated back then?
I don't know. The screaming, you mean?
That sounded like a great play. And there's a ball hit and a double play.
It was a great play, too, on the video. It's like a backhand
Yeah, but you
slide
know what Gus Johnson would be going nuts.
Oh, my goodness.
And every time we play play-by-play, I wonder when that changed. When, obviously Madden was a big part of it in terms of the character for the color analyst.
You know what? I think Stuart Scott had a big part to play in that. When ESPN kind of really
but that
came
was
on.
highlights. I'm talking about play-by-play.
Yeah, but the highlights, they leak over. You hear people making the comments like Stuart Scott does, and then you breathe that into the play-by-play, and then all of a sudden it becomes the yelling that you have.
By the way, Joe DiMaggio won AL MVP that year, and Bob Elliott won the NL MVP that year.
There you go. That's good work by you looking up the awards there for the year.
He did that for the Boston Braves.
Oh, of course.
How
How could we
Why don't
forget?
you know this stuff?
I mean, I'm not up to date on my Boston Braves knowledge. I'm still trying to figure out the Atlanta Braves. Let's go to a birthday for a great baseball player. Happy birthday, Jim Abbott. Born on this day in 1967 with only one hand, Abbott made it to the majors, and he even threw a no-hitter back in 1993.
Indians have not had a man past first base.
Viorga batting .318. And the ground ball is short. Velarde. He did it. He did it. No hitter for Jim Abbott.
What a moment there.
Yeah, that was cool. I actually saw the video not that long ago. I don't know why it randomly popped up on Twitter, but yeah, I mean, his form. Think about how much he had to practice that.
Yeah, holding the glove on his hand, like the arm with no hand, and then switching it over
as he pitched
somehow, and then taking it off to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And guess what? So I was looking this up. I was trying to see some Jim Abbott career stats and what type of because everyone remembers the no hitter. Everyone remembers that he only had one hand, but I looked it up on Baseball Reference, and at the top they have the bats and throws listed. So for Jim Abbott, it's listed bats left, throws left. Says Fields left as well.
Yeah,
just everything left.
Look, there's stats for everything. There's metrics for everything, including Jim Abbott.
I'm just imagining some dude at Baseball Reference when they're logging all this stuff. Like, what do I put for Jim?
What do I put for this guy?
So happy birthday, Jim Abbott. 1967, he was born. Today would have been Joe Morgan's 80th birthday. The Baseball Hall of Famer was an integral part of Cincinnati's Big Red Machine. Here's a clip from his career highlights. There's a reason I picked this one.
There's a looper. May drop. It's in for a hit. Here comes a throw to third. Rose hits the dirt. He's safe. And there goes Morgan down to second. And the Reds have the lead 4-3 as Joe Morgan blooped a base hit into center field.
So why a random bloop base hit? Because you get the vintage Pete Rose head first slide into third with the helmet coming off and the hair flying. And
Charlie Hustle, man.
And Charlie Hustle was not alone hustling on that play with Joe Morgan moving up to second. I mean, that team was unbelievable with Cincinnati and Joe Morgan. Unbelievable
and then
player.
Eventually unbelievable players in the Phillies. Louise kids.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, transfer's over now. Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame to join his buddy, Joe Morgan? Absolutely. But
yes,
that's
definitely
a conversation for a different time. And the final one here, it's also a baseball one, and this is a heck of a stat. On this day, back in 1997, Mark McGwire becomes the first player in MLB history to hit 20 home runs with two different teams in the same damn season.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. He accomplished it with the Cardinals and the Athletics, obviously. And here's a little call of both.
And Randy nods no. Now all right, the 3-2 pitch to McGwire. Swing and a high fly ball belted. And I mean belted deep to left field into the upper deck. My, oh my, what a shot by McGwire. That is probably the longest home run ever hit here.
McGwire, Langford, and Gant coming up. Estes pitches, and there it goes down the left field line, and this is it, number 50 for Mort McGwire.
50.
A booming shot, a liner way up into the seats, down the left field line, and he becomes only the second man in the history of Major League Baseball to have consecutive seasons of 50 or more home runs. The only other one was Babe Ruth.
Those are the glory days of ESPN baseball right there.
Absolutely. I mean, that's amazing. Honestly, 50 home runs, 20 with two different teams. I got to tell you, Andrew, I don't know how he did it. You don't see guys do that as much anymore. I don't know what it is.
The juice probably helps, Connor. The juice probably helped a little bit. And the fact that he was also a talented baseball player.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, like all those guys you got to remember are still like big time.
Yeah, they were still good ball players. It's not like they stunk and then all of a sudden hit 60 home runs. They were good ball players.
Look, he went from hitting 400-foot home runs to 600-foot home runs.
Exactly.
I guess he's been really pumping some iron. So McGwire with a couple different milestones, and on this day was when he hit his 20th for the second team. So there you have it, a baseball heavy vault.
Baseball heavy vault brought to us by Gold Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Now, Connor.
Andrew.
An update on Damian Lillard.
Oh, here we go.
I want to love the guy. I do. I hate this whole Miami thing, so I'll always feel a certain type of way about Dame Lillard. But Dame was asked randomly about joining Golden State. I don't even know where that's coming from. And here's his response. I respect what they've been doing over the last 8-9 years or whatever, and I'm from there, obviously. That's home. But I can't be a part of that. It doesn't even make sense. I never do nothing like that. I lose every year before I go.
He's insane.
Like, dude, I get it, man. Like, you don't want to, like, maybe you're anti-super team and and you want to win on your, but like you are going to lose every single year. So, and nobody's talking about a trade Dame to the Golden State Warriors. Like nobody's talking about that, but he was asked the question, so he responded. Dude, like at some point, put your morals aside. You've had a great career that has amounted to nothing. You're becoming James Harden.
He's lucky he's been in Portland his whole career, because now that he's in the market for other teams, I'm starting to realize just how insane this guy is.
Yes.
Like, no one cares what he said when he was just a member of the Trailblazers losing in like the second round.
Yeah, I don't care about the grind, dude.
Yeah,
like
whatever.
I know that you grinded to get to the NBA, right? You worked your ass off.
Great player.
And you're very talented, and I would love you on the Sixers, but they're too good for you to join, apparently.
Yeah, everything I hear him say, though, is just it annoys me.
Yeah, like it gets to the point where I go, you know what? Go to Miami, and I hope we beat you in the playoffs because that's kind of what you want, it seems. Like it seems like he doesn't want to win.
Yeah, you're not switching like allegiances for countries at war, dude. You're going to a different basketball team.
Yeah,
they might be good. Get over it, dude.
It's so strange. I really like it. He bothers me.
Now, would I still have him in a Sixers uniform?
Absolutely,
yeah, no doubt.
In a heartbeat. But he's not coming here.
Who knows where he's going?
Whatever. Speaking of basketball, the NBA, Sixers made a move yesterday, and I want to get into that later on the show, and I want to talk about James Harden later in the show because. If you've been listening to this show, you know how I feel about the situation. And we'll discuss that more coming up. But also, the lawsuit in the NFL going up against the NFL Players Association and running backs and maybe faking injuries or maybe using a 1-week injury to be out for a couple of weeks. Something that was brought up in the NFL yesterday. I'll tell you all about it next. Jeff McClain will join the show at 11:30, so we'll talk Eagles with him, but I'm excited to hear what he has to say about the lawsuit as well. So we'll start that as well as your Phillies calls at 610-632-0975. I'm Andrew Salchunas right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The magic number's down to 8. I'm Connor Thomas.
719, 97.5, The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas, 11 o'clock hour, brought to us by Golden Nugget Jewelers. That's where Philly gets engaged. I saw a tweet during the break from Todd Zalecki, his story from last night, and I love the little quote from Zach Wheeler. I didn't read the article. I will. But the tweet itself says Zach Wheeler rebounded last night in a key win versus Atlanta. It offered a reminder to everybody involved, including himself, that, quote, I'm still me. I love that out of Zach Wheeler. He's your game one starter in the wild card round. And maybe he needed a reminder that he could still be that dominant pitcher that we have seen since he's signed here with the Phillies. And that's exciting to me. And that's why, we'll get back. I'm going to get to the NFL stuff in a second here. But I opened the show talking about the attitude that a lot of Phillies fans have, the bad attitude with this team. Because last night I put out a tweet after the Phillies beat the Braves 7-1 in Atlanta that was a statement win for the Phillies. And if I'm a player of the Braves or if I'm a Braves fan, I'm having bad flashbacks to last year's playoffs because the Phillies took down the Braves in the NLDS. We know all about it. And the responses that I got were just completely filled with negativity. All of it. There was not like a single, yeah, man, I'm with you. It was just all negativity. I had Braves fans in the mentions coming in, trying to make fun of the Phillies, and I just sit here, forget them for a second, but my own fellow Phillies fans are still down in the dumps, and I get it has not been a clean season, but neither was last year, and they got to the World Series. And I guess maybe the thought is, wow, are they going to be able to do that again? I don't know. I didn't think they were going to go to the World Series last year, but they got there. So because that happened, because that magic was there, I still got to believe that it's still a possibility. And if Zach Wheeler, the player, not you, the fan, but Zach Wheeler, the player, the guy that's going to be towing the rubber, holding the baseball, and he's feeling good and he's feeling that like himself again, that's a pretty good sign, man.
Yes, it's never been, are they going to get there? We don't know, right? We can conjecture and we can project out and all this stuff, but the best team doesn't always win. All that matters is you can have a team that you say they play their best, they can get there. The Phillies have a talented enough team that they can knock off anyone in baseball if they play their best.
Yep.
And not only that, but it's not like you're saying that about the Padres, who have a really talented lineup and probably your NL Cy Young winner in Blake Snell, and say, oh, well, their best game, they can beat anybody. They haven't shown it enough over the course of the regular season. Like the Phillies have had a month where they led the league in home runs.
Yeah, they did. And that was not long ago.
No, they had a month where their pitching staff was one of the best in baseball. Like they've done all this stuff. They just haven't done it consistently. But the postseason, it's super short compared to the regular season. Get hot at the right time. This team is absolutely dangerous.
You take game one, and it changes the entire perspective of a series. And we saw that last year. The Phillies took game one in every series, and look what it got them to. Now, unfortunately, they took game one in the World Series, and they didn't win it, but whatever. They took game one in the wild card, game one of the NLDS, game one of the NLCS. And taking game one gives you home field advantage. And that's just going to have to be the case again this year, except for the first round. You take game one, you're still at home because it's if you're the one seed. 610-632-0975. I'll get to this NFL grievance. Maybe I shouldn't have used the word lawsuit earlier today. Y'all are funny on social media. You guys are all funny on social media.
What? You getting? Oh.
Just leave me alone, man. Please. That's all I got to ask. Leave me out of it. Let's go to Jim in Cheltenham. Jim, you're on the Fanatic.
How you doing, guys?
What's up, Jim?
When you're talking about the Phillies, to be a Phillies diehard fan is like going to hell because I've been a Phillies fan for a long time, since 1960, and I get criticized every day my whole life. You better have thick skin. It's tough to be a Phillies fan because the Phillies are a negative team, and people won't believe the Phillies until they get to the end.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, I was talking about this last year. Last year, the number was 14. Now it's 15. Since the beginning of their franchise, the inception of this franchise, the Phillies have made the playoffs 15 times.
I know about the Phillies.
Isn't that crazy? 50. Now, again, playoffs have changed. It used to just be a National League winner versus an American League winner, but still 15 playoffs.
It took them 97 years just to win a playoff series.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah, man. So I know all the negative when I was a kid, but I take it to another level. I love my family, but my love of my life is the Phillies. I live and die with the Phillies. When I was young as a kid, I used to tape all their games off the radio, off my tape recorder.
I love that.
And now I find out all these games I taped are off the tape. I have the only existing tape.
Oh, is that right?
So my son says, you got to put this on YouTube. So now little by little we're starting to put them on YouTube.
Yeah, that's really
awesome.
that's really cool. There's a YouTube account that does that with certain radio broadcasts. So that's really cool. You should really make that big with the Phils. That's awesome.
Well, I do it. It's costing me money because you have to buy special equipment and all this. I'm not going to make no money on it, but it's for I just care about the next generation.
That's Jim. I appreciate that.
So
You're a
anytime
great
you want
man.
to use any of my stuff, you can use it anytime you want.
Jim, you're the man. I think that's beautiful.
Just go to JJS Archives. You take anything you want off there. I got classic sports talk and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, dude, I love that. Jim, you're the man. Thank you. That's really cool. Look at that, Vault.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Jimmy Vault there,
Mr. Vault.
Love it.
Yeah, maybe he was the real inventor of the Vault.
I think Jim is an angel that came down from the clouds. He said he was in Philadelphia, Philly's hell.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds like heaven to me.
I think he put his hard hat on. I think he built the Vault years ago.
He might have.
When it was first created. Let's go to Sam in Georgia, who has an interesting thought on the Phillies. Sam, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, how you doing, Tunis?
What's up, Sam?
So listen, I'm listening to you. I work in Atlanta 3 days a week, right?
Okay.
And I'm in the office and I hear them talking and they're proud. They're proud of their Braves, right? But they hesitate with the Phillies. They're thinking about them.
I love that.
It's in their mind. It's something that they don't want to admit. You know what I mean? So they're like, they think we're the only hurdle, man. That to them, we're the only roadblock to the championship.
Because they just saw it last year. And, the Dodgers, they're a great team, but they're sometimes fluky. And you know that baseball can be weird. I still remember, I forget what it was from. I think it was like a documentary on the 2004 Red Sox, and they were down 3-0. And Kevin Millar was like, weird things happen in baseball. Let's get weird. And they came back and they took the next 4 and they beat the Yankees and they go on to win the World Series. Weird things happen in baseball. And the Braves could win 105 games when this season is over, and it won't matter because everybody's back to ground zero when it starts. And the Phillies are coming off of a wild card round win if they face the Braves, and the Braves are coming off of a bye, and we know how that can affect people.
Yeah, you know what it's like? Remember how we used to think about Florida, no matter how bad they were?
Yes.
They always seemed to come in and beat us.
Yes.
That's what they're thinking about. And if we do it again this year, they're going to be scarred for life, dude.
Do you listen to any Atlanta radio while you're down there?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I was going to say, I'd be curious to see what they are saying. Like after a game like last night, are they just trying to push it off as if it was nothing? Or I wonder if the hosts and the callers are starting to get a little concerned.
No, I'm a Philly proud. I listen to, Philly channels every day.
Oh, you're the man, Sam. Well, then I appreciate it, brother. Enjoy the rest of your time in Georgia before you come back home. Maybe I'll ask John that because John would know.
Dude, John
Mr.
knows
Atlanta.
what's on every radio station in every market in the country. I don't know how he does it.
I wonder what they're saying, though. I wonder if Braves radio or, whatever, they're coming in today going, yeah, that was a scary game last night. Or are they doing that? Nah, don't worry about them.
You know what? I don't think the players are not worried about him, and that's all that matters. I think the players are definitely feeling okay, we're going to have to take care of this team, and they give us trouble.
Yeah.
Whether the fans care about it or not, I mean, all that matters is, are you in the players' heads a little bit? And I think people overstate that whole being in someone's head thing. Like, oh, the Braves, the Phillies are in their head. No, they're still going to go out and play. Like, Ronald Acuna is still Ronald Acuna.
I'll say this. If I'm Brian Snitker, now it's kind of easy because of how good he's been this year. I'm making sure Strider's pitching in Atlanta.
That's the thing. Some of them, you're right.
He's not pitching in Citizens Bank Park.
No.
He's pitching games 1 or 2, which it'll probably be game 1 and 5.
The mustache is not built for CBP.
I wonder, is Fried their number 1?
Has to be.
Come playoff time? I mean, Strider's had a ridiculous season.
No. I'd probably throw Strider 1.
I wonder how he would shape up because they're going to have time off, plenty of time off.
He's got the higher ceiling because of the strikeout thing.
So I wonder if he goes Strider 1, Fried 2.
Yeah, and then you'd probably get Morton and Wright, I guess. Or no, they've got other young guys that they've used. I'd definitely say it's Strider, then Fried.
Okay. All right. We got Jeff McClain in 2 minutes. But I just wanted to bring this up. If you missed it yesterday, the NFL is filing a grievance against the NFL Players Association over allegations that the union advised running backs to consider feigning or exaggerating injuries to gain leverage in contract talks and seeking an order for the union to cease and desist from such improper conduct. Now, if you remember, before the season started, there was that coup, right? That the running backs were going to come together. And the running backs had a Zoom call, and they were talking about maybe holding out on purpose. And Saquon was the big one. Saquon Barkley was, bleep them. I'm not going to come in, blah, blah. And then Saquon bailed in like 5 seconds because they offered him a couple $100,000 more. But then, obviously Jonathan Taylor didn't go through with it. And now Saquon's injured. And the report was an ordinary ankle injury that could now all of a sudden sideline him 3 weeks. There's the question marks surrounding Austin Eckler. This thing's not going away anytime soon. So it's going to be something to keep an eye on. And I'm looking forward to talking about this more and more with you guys as the show goes on. But I will say, thank God for Howie Roseman and the Eagles. There's just no drama right now, which is a beautiful thing. Now let's head to the Comcast Business Hotline to talk to a man who covers the Eagles on a daily basis from the Inquirer and Inquirer.com. That, of course, the great Jeff McClain. Jeff, what's going on? How are you today?
Hey, Andrew, what's up?
Nothing much. Just another day in paradise. The Eagles are going to be the majority of what we talk about, but I do want your thoughts on the NFL filing the grievance yesterday against the NFLPA. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't even know that. What happened?
Okay. Sorry. So they filed a grievance against the NFL Players Association because they believe the union advised running backs to, quote, consider feigning or exaggerating injuries.
I looked at that briefly, but I didn't dig into it deeply. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. What have you guys been saying?
I'm just bringing it up now for the first time. We started with a lot of Philly stuff to start the show, but it's just interesting because there was the Zoom before the Zoom happened before the season started, and Saquon was all for it, and then Saquon got a little bit of a bump, so he went quiet, but now all of a sudden he's got the injury. But then you feel bad because in the same day that grievance is filed, Nick Chubb's knee bends in a way it shouldn't, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season.
I think there's enough for me to think about with the Eagles.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I guess it's something that the NFLPA in terms of like what the running backs are getting paid feels strongly about, but that's just the nature of the business here, and that's what you see with the Eagles and how they've gotten production from someone like DeAndre Swift, who's they traded him for whatever a 5th round pick,
right?
About much, and everybody wanted them to trade for Derrick Henry or draft Bijan Robinson or do this, that, and the other thing. And the fact of the matter is, running backs are paid the way the league views them, and in terms of their usefulness. So to me, I guess this is pretty much much ado about nothing.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Swift, I think it was you or you may have asked the question right before. But yesterday, Sirianni was asked about DeAndre Swift and obviously his production in week 2. That was, we all know about. He had an incredible day. But in week 1, the guy had 1 carry and 1 touch. And the question was basically, hey, if Kenneth Gainwell didn't get hurt, what would have DeAndre Swift's, targets and carries have looked like in week 2? And now what's the plan moving forward? Jeff, I know Nick Sirianni loves Kenneth Gainwell and he loves everybody on his roster and he's going to stick with a running back by committee. But if you saw what DeAndre Swift did in week 2, you got to give him the bulk of the carries week 3, no?
Yeah, that was my question. And my question was more just like the evaluation process. What made you think that Kenny, again, I'm not saying the starter is the guy who's going to play the bulk, but,
right.
It did not only did he start, but he got 18 touches to Swift too. Now, I think some of that was how the game played out. And then, of course, sometimes runs RPOs are called or PRs are called. And for whatever reason, someone may get more carries than another guy. But it just kind of surprised me that just what I had even seen in training camp, that Gainwell was ahead of Swift. Now, maybe they thought there was something about Gainwell against the Patriots that, served them better than Swift, but Swift is shiftier. He's a little quicker. I'm not saying he should be a workhorse or a bell cow. We've seen before in his career with the Lions. I think he got 33 carries once, but aside from that one game, he never got more than 16 and was a productive player. Certainly, there's a reason why they didn't think he can kind of carry that load. That being said, it was just shocking to me that Gainwell, who I think is a nice player, but I don't know. I just didn't see it. So I'm questioning the Eagles a little bit on this. Now, that being said, we're talking about a small sample of games here. We're just talking about two games. So I don't want to make too big a deal about this, but it was just a question that I had, and I wanted to see Nick's response to it. And he just kind of went into, obviously it's going to be dependent upon the game, who maybe gets more touches than the other guy. They view them all kind of similarly. I don't think that's, again, if I'm looking at it objectively, I still think that based upon what I've seen, Swift 1, Gainwell 2, and I guess you can, flip a coin in terms of Boston Scott, depending upon who the opponent is, and Rashad Penny, who maybe he's still hindered by the injury or not, but you could see that in camp that he wasn't as explosive as the other guys, but he's a different type runner than they are as well.
Now, you mentioned short sample size. I'm with you. Through 2 weeks, Brian Johnson, Sean Desai, how do you feel about the two new coordinators?
Yeah, I mean, it's early. Again, small sample. Brian Johnson, in terms of the passing offense, not great so far. Some of the calls that I think have been questionable here and there in certain circumstances, but it's not all on him. And I think at some point it's going to take him a little while to get comfortable. Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts hasn't been his best. Clearly, is that a result of a new play caller? Is that because of him, or is that because of the way defenses are scheming against the Eagles and doing crazy things, as Jason Kelsey said after the last game? And I think it's probably all of the above. So I think we'll have to see how this plays out. Brian, to his credit, stuck with the run. It was working. It wasn't like, what you'd call imaginative. It was inside zone right, inside zone left, and it was, outside zone right, outside zone left. But it was working. And I give him credit for sticking with that. Some offensive coordinators wouldn't do that. On the other side of the ball, Sean Desai, he was really hampered by injuries that last game. They were scraping together whoever they could to fill out the back 6 or 7 there, depending upon the personnel. And, so in his defense, I think it was tough. And I think he did a really good job, solid job in the first half. It got away from him a little bit, but the Eagles got ahead and they were playing a little different scheme. So personnel has something to do with it. There have been some calls that I've questioned as well, but I think all in all, Sean Desai knows what he's doing out there, and you can see that.
I know Nick gave somewhat of response to injuries. I think it was leading up to game 2. Somebody asked, I think you asked about injuries, and he goes, Jeff, I'm not answering anything about injuries. And it's just, he refuses to give you any because he loves the competitive advantage, but it did seem like Blankenship will be coming back and Gainwell will be coming back. Any update on Bradbury? I know he's in the protocol, so he can't really talk about it, but have you heard anything about Bradbury?
Yeah. Obviously, I totally understand why Nick doesn't want to talk about it. He's well within his right, but that doesn't mean he can't talk about injuries or he can't talk about someone who's in the protocol. That's all. There's nothing that's legally keeping him from talking about
right.
it. That being said, I totally understand why he doesn't do it. For competitive advantage, why do it? But just to be clear, there's nothing keeping him from talking about James Bradbury if he wants to.
Okay.
And Andy Reid would give us what stages they were in the protocol when guys had concussions. So, I don't know why he's standing behind something that isn't true. But that being said, it's my job to find out what's going on through other avenues. And from what I understand, it's what he said. At least that all the guys may have a chance to play on Monday against the Buccaneers is true. But there's still days before some practices and a lot that still has to be accomplished here for these guys to be ready in time by the next game. And it's a lot that's going to come down to pain management. I think with Blankenship and with Gainwell, it's going to come down to how they feel by that day. So I don't think they really know at this point. That's just one of those types of injuries. That's sort of a day-to-day thing. Bradbury is further along in the protocol. Clearly, I don't know exactly what stage he is at. But again, I think he's going to fall in that same category in terms of just going to see how this plays out over the next few days.
Now, this is going to be the last time I talk to you until the Buccaneers game. Bucks, they started the season 2-0. They beat the Vikings just like the Eagles beat the Vikings. And they beat a Bears team who I think they're going to be pretty damn ugly this year. But 2-0 teams heading to Tampa on Monday Night Football. Jalen Hurts so far this year has played, I think, really just 2 good quarters. What are you expecting next week? I know it's early on because we still have 6 days, but what are you kind of expecting for the Eagles? Do you think that offense kind of comes back to life that we were hoping to see at the start of the season? And does the defense bring a little bit more against, I know Baker's 2-0, but he's still Baker Mayfield. Do we see a little bit more pressure, or what kind of defensive looks against the Bucs?
Yeah, Todd Bowles, head coach there, obviously still runs defense, and we all know how good he is as a defensive coordinator. He did a job on Jalen Hurts in the playoff game a couple years ago. Of course, Jalen Hurts last year showed that he is a much better passer than he was in that game. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of game plan he has, and will he do similarly what the Patriots did in the first game and what occurred in the second game. Baker Mayfield, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's not like they're putting up a lot of points down there, and I think the Eagles defense, the pass rush has been great. The defensive line has been very productive, so I think will have an advantage there. But that Bucs team is 2-0, so there's no reason for the Eagles to think that they can go down there and win easily. I think it'll probably be a little tougher test than maybe we thought at the beginning of the season. One thing to consider, too, is that coming off the Thursday game, the Eagles had a little more time, coaches, and Sirianni, to kind of look at the offense and maybe see how they want to do things differently. And if you recall 2 years ago, it was off the Thursday night game against the Bucs that they decided, okay, we're going to change this offense. We're going to go run heavy. We're going to involve Jalen Moore into the +1 quarterback game, get him involved, and that's forever kind of altered the course of this team and the offense and subsequently the team. So I imagine that Nick used this time effectively, and they're going to come up with some ways to counter what they've seen so far in terms of what defenses have done to them.
Jeff, great stuff as always, man. I appreciate you coming on. Enjoy Tampa, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
There he is, Jeff McClain, Inquirer.com. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. Started the show talking Phillies, but I'm going to mix in some NFL stuff here, and I want to talk about the running backs. You heard Jeff kind of talk about it, right? You saw production from DeAndre Swift, a guy who's still on his rookie deal, who the Eagles traded a 5th-round pick for. Yeah, there's guys like Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb, and it's a shame what happened to Nick Chubb yesterday. But the NFL filing a grievance against the NFL Players Association because of a potential coup to fake injuries. I don't know if that's true, but I want to bring back this NFL running back conversation because all the responses to the tweet from Tom Pelissero yesterday was just pay running backs. I would love for that to be the case because I'm pro player and get your money. But we talk about devaluing positions all the time. That's one of them, man. And you could be the best athlete in the world and play running back. You're not going to get the same respect as quarterback. Patrick Mahomes became the 8th highest paid player and basically whined about it, as he should. He's the best player in the NFL. And 2 days later, he's back up to the top. That's just the way it is. But we'll talk about it. 610-632-0975. Next chance to win $1,000 coming at 12 o'clock. And we also have a little Sixers conversation later on the show as well, right here, 97.5 The Fanatic. 11:49, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas. Just talking to Pat Egan during the break. Always great seeing Pat. I'll be hanging with Pat in Florida, Connor.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you're not going.
That's okay.
Live vicariously through me. Like, I basically live vicariously through you on a given basis now.
I'm going to live my own life. I'll be good up here. Like, here's the thing. If it was December, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, I got you.
But, I mean, it's nice. This is a good time of year. I'll be fine.
Yeah, I got you. Pat's weird because of the whole hotel thing.
Oh,
Does not let anybody know what room he's in.
Are you going to try and track him down?
No, I don't care enough. As long as he's where he's supposed to be and I'm where I'm supposed to be, you do you, man.
I don't care either, but I want to bother him would be why I do it.
Nah, listen, man, I'm easy, dude. Like, when I was down in Clearwater with Ant during spring training, he had the boot, right? And so he couldn't do stuff. So it was just like, all right, you know, I remember the first thing we did when we got there, I was like, all right, you want a six-pack? And I found a beer store that was still open because we got down there after 11 o'clock.
Well, it's Florida. They don't close.
Yeah, you're right. I brought the six-pack to his room, and then I went out, did my own thing. I didn't feel the need to have to be there. And then whenever we had to get somewhere for work, we got there. Whenever we ate dinner together, we ate dinner together. Or if I wanted to do my own thing, I did my own thing. I don't care what Pat wants to do. If Pat hits me up, hey, you want to go hang? I will. But I'm not going to feel the need to.
Nah, I mean, just do your own thing.
There's a pool. I will sit at the pool and do nothing for 8 hours for all I care. We've had this conversation before. I have fun in life, but ultimately I'm a very boring person, right? Like, last night, put Coop to bed. It's a little different. I got a kid at home now, so prior to having a child, life was a little different.
The civil authorities have issued a required monthly test for all of New Jersey beginning at 10:50 a.m. and ending at 12:50 p.m. The New Jersey Office of Emergency Management is conducting a test of the emergency alert system. Had this been an actual emergency, the attention signal you have just heard would have been followed by official information or instructions. This concludes the test of the emergency alert system.
I am Putty from Seinfeld.
Love that.
On an airplane. I could sit and stare at the person's head in front of me and do nothing for the entire flight.
I can't possibly do that. Like, I'm too skittish, I guess is the way I'll put it. I don't sit still well. I'm very antsy.
Yeah, we were just talking about this during the break, that you can't stand, but you can't sit still.
Yeah, I got to.
So what is it?
I just got to move around. I'm like a shark. I got to be in constant motion or I die.
Okay. All right, whatever you say. All right. I want to talk about the running back situation here. So before the season started, if you remember, there was the NFL running backs were upset that they weren't getting paid, right? And it was because of Saquon. Saquon had 1 year left on his deal, and they wanted to try to restructure. He wanted a boatload of money. The Giants weren't going to do it. Then the Giants paid Daniel Jones, who stinks, a ton of money. Right, so that was kind of a bad look, but then again, it's just the way the NFL is. I almost want to have this unfair conversation again that I'm sorry, running backs aren't going to get major money really ever again, unless you're maybe Derrick Henry.
Even then,
it's just it's a position that's going to be there, but DeAndre Swift, who had 1 carry and 1 target in week 1, in week 2 had 175 yards on the ground. Because that's kind of how it is. Like, you can have Isaiah Pacheco, your 7th round draft pick, have a big role for you in the Super Bowl in which the Chiefs beat the Eagles. Like, that's Kenneth Gainwell was the better running back for the Eagles in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, it's just not that. It's not even that it's not that impactful of a position, but it's just the shelf life isn't long enough.
Well, it's like a reliever. A reliever can have a great season and the next year be terrible. Not that many running backs have great seasons and then are terrible unless they're cooked, like unless they're like their legs are just done. But for the most part, it's like, all right, this guy's not working out. We'll have another guy. Running back by committee.
Right. You can find some reliever with a 3.5 ERA out there somewhere to just throw. There's a billion of them.
Yeah. And I went through earlier in the offseason, I went through the last, I think, 10 Super Bowls, and it was the running back matchup, right?
Oh, it's direct, dude.
It could have been very talented running backs, but on rookie deals, so they weren't getting paid any money yet. Leonard Fournette was the best one, but he was on 2 separate one-year deals with the Bucs. Both years they went to the Super Bowl. The year they won, the year they lost. But other than that, it was like James White, Isaiah Pacheco last year.
LeGarrette Blount.
It was guys on one-year deals or rookie contracts.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way it's going to continue to be because you can't build a team around Ezekiel Elliott anymore. And you can't build a team around Saquon Barkley.
I get it with the complaining about the contract, right? Should the individual players, like when I look at Saquon Barkley and I look at him as a football player, do I understand why he thinks he should be paid more? Like, yeah, the guy's a monster. But it's kind of like, to me, the people who complain about, like, when there's a backdoor cover when you bet on a game. Okay, yeah, I get it. That sucks. It probably shouldn't have happened. It's a bad beat. But unluckily for you, you decided to play running back. I'm sorry, but it's just not that important of a position for the sport. I'm not going to cry for you because your position has become less important.
Yeah. Now,
it just is what it is.
I wonder if it changes again one day because you know how it works in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So now all the defense is smaller linebackers, smaller secondary because you need to be able to defend the pass as well. And so then you have a game like the Eagles game the other day, right? Vikings are bringing pressure, and they're locking down the Eagles receivers except for Devontae Smith, who had a monster day, but only 4 catches. So they go to the ground. They couldn't stop him. They could not stop him because the Eagles' offensive line was superior to their defensive line, and whenever they got to the second level, DeAndre Swift was able to make a guy miss. So maybe one day it goes back to running backs are a focal point, but it's never going to be like 3 yards in a cloud of dust ever again.
Well, yeah, but if you asked me 3 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever, will baseball ever get back to the point where there's all these guys stealing bases and doing this, that, and the other thing? I would have been like, no shot.
Well, it took a rule change.
Exactly. Who says there can't be a rule change?
What rule change will there be?
I don't know.
You can once again try to decapitate the quarterback?
Maybe.
That's never going to happen.
But maybe there's something that changes in the passing game that allows defensive backs to be a lot more productive. Maybe it's they come up with a way to actually do the pass interference review right. And it turns into guys getting locked down. And you're like, okay, well, we can't pass the way we used to when they couldn't touch anybody. Like, you never know that it could turn back around. So you're right. Sports can be cyclical in that. But right now, the running back is not a valuable position.
Right. And so that's why you don't pay running backs big money. And it's a shame. And then that leads to this lawsuit where, obviously we know that Jonathan Taylor is out. There was no injury. He was just put on the PUP list because he didn't want to play. And then Eckler goes down and Saquon goes down. And Saquon was a big part of this. And now all of a sudden there's a belief that Saquon is faking the injury or not faking the injury. He was going to miss a week, but now might miss 3 weeks because of an ordinary ankle sprain. And now I go, well, this is a fishy line. He knows his body more than you do. Right? So, this is where it's weird. This is where the NFL is a beast. The NFL is never going to die. Like, we all know this kind of stuff, so it doesn't matter. And that's why you can do whatever you want. Saquon Barkley can sit out 4 weeks if he wants. The Giants will go to their next running back because running backs will just keep on coming up, and their team's going to stink. They're not going to win 11 games because of Saquon Barkley and win 5 without him. They might just win 8 regardless because they're an average football team to below average. Like, I don't think the Giants are going to do anything this year with Saquon or without. But, there's that fishy line of, well, hold on a second. If you're Roger Goodell or if you're the lawyer or whatever, how are you supposed to know how Saquon's feeling?
Right. There's no concussion protocol for ankle sprains. There's no ankle sprain protocol where you're like, oh, no, we put you through a test. You're good to go.
He could say, oh, no, man, this feels worse than what you guys think it is.
Yeah.
I need a second opinion. Right? How many times we talked about second opinions with the Avonte Maddox situation?
He's doing the old Willy Wonka where he's hobbling up on the cane. You seen that in the old one?
And then all of a sudden he's fine. But, I don't know. So, it's strange that they put out this lawsuit yesterday. For what reason? I don't they must know more than we do, obviously, but it's like Jeff McClain said when I asked him about it, he said it's probably going to become nothing. Right? It sounds harsher than what it really is. It's probably going to become nothing because, again, you can't dictate how somebody's body feels.
No, I don't know what the case would be there. I think it's more of just the NFL firing a shot back after seeing the player. See, I brought
like
this
that
up.
coup was real. Like they
Yes.
were doing Zoom meetings. Like that was real.
I brought this up previously, and it's why the NFL is so good at what they do. In baseball, the owners and the teams have way too much power.
Yes.
You don't get to know anything about the players. You don't get to see any content unless the owners okay it and Manfred okays it. In the NBA, the players have too much power. They're taking teams over. They're going left and right wherever they want to the point where Dame Lillard is insane. The NFL, the best thing they have is they have the balance between the players and the owners figured out easily. So when the players start to say, hey, we need to change the status quo, this is the NFL shot back at saying, no. We've got a good balance. Don't mess it up.
But my question for people on social media, and not just social media, I mean, I had the argument. Well, wasn't that I argued with you. It's I agreed. I wish running backs did get paid more, but I have the firm stance that that's never going to happen. The people that are like, well, just pay him more money. Why?
Yeah.
Like, why should you just pay running backs more money? I would love for running backs to get more money. You know the toll that they take on their bodies. We just saw Nick Chubb's knee going in a wrong direction just last night. That could happen to any player on the field, right? It doesn't have to be a running back. That could be a wide receiver going over the middle. But anyways, it's just one of these things where I go, yeah, I wish they got more money too, but why? What's the emphasis on it when you can go from one running back and their rookie deal's up and then go to another running back? The Eagles just showed you that. They were never going to pay Miles Sanders.
No.
They were never going to pay Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders was their lead back last year. Miles Sanders is gone. Kenneth Gainwell, a guy that showed good signs in the playoffs last year, was your lead back to start week 1 of this season. DeAndre Swift is your second back, a guy that you got still on his rookie contract. Rashad Penny is on this roster, a guy that you signed to a 1-year deal because he's trying to, raise his stock again after his injury, history. I don't understand why people are so steadfast to say, we'll just pay him more money. We'll get into this more coming up, 610-632-0975, but it's 12 o'clock. Time for some Kelly Green Cash.
Win $1,000 right now. 97.5 The Fanatic's Kelly Green Cash.
Text the word new to 45911. New, N-E-W, not K-N-E-W, just N-E-W. The word new to 45911, or you can enter it on the Fanatic app or at 975thefanatic.com. Again, the word new, N-E-W. One winner selected at random will win $1,000 in this company-wide contest. Winners will get a call from Beasley, so be sure to answer your phone. Complete rules at 975thefanatic.com. 97.5 The Fanatic's Kelly Green Cash is presented by Rand Spear, the accident lawyer. Demand Rand. Call 1-800-90-LEGAL. Please never text and drive. Good luck. Oh, my man just dropped off. We were about to talk Nolan Smith, but that's okay. So, Connor, I'll ask you, like this conversation about running backs and how, just pay them more money. Why would you do that?
You wouldn't. If you do that, I want you to send me video proof. If you're going to send a tweet about paying more money, send me video proof of you walking into a store offering you a sale and you say, no, I'm going to pay full price.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I've only seen that one time. I was on vacation down in Cancun. And I was with a couple buddies, and the one guy had been drinking heavier than the rest of us.
Okay.
And we did this ATV trip, and they took a bunch of pictures and cool pictures of us riding around or whatever. And they offered them at the end. You could buy the package or whatever. And the deal is you could buy individual pictures for 10 pesos, or you could get the whole thing for 50. And he comes over to us. He's like, "Yo, why don't we just give him 100 for the full thing?" We're like, what are you talking about, dude? And he's like, well, 10 pictures, there's 100 pictures in there. Yeah, they offered it to us for 50, you idiot.
Yeah.
So unless he's your negotiator, there's no reason why you'd pay more for something you don't have to.
And I know that there are some very talented running backs in the NFL, right? There is a tier 1 and then tier 2 is a pretty big drop off.
Right.
I get that. And I know it's only 2 weeks in, but I just pulled up the leaders in rushing yards so far this season, okay? Christian McCaffrey, by far number 1, 86 yards ahead of the second leader rusher. He's a beast, and he probably deserves more money because he does other things too, right? He catches the ball out of the backfield. He's a guy that's we talked about the Swiss Army knife the other day, right?
He's more than a running back.
Your second leader rusher in the NFL is Bijan Robinson. He's
also more than running back.
Right, but he's a rookie.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So he's not getting paid any money. DeAndre Swift, Final year of his rookie deal. He's third, believe it or not, after only having one carry in week 1.
It's awesome.
Nick Chubb, and we saw what happened yesterday. And it's unfortunate. Nick Chubb is going to be out for the year, who knows how much longer. James Cook with Buffalo. James Cook is never going to be a back that people are going to go pay him a lot of money. Like, he's a decent back on a very pass-heavy football team. Then there's James Conner. James Conner's never going to get a big contract. Raheem Mostert, Brian Robinson, and then I get to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's not even in the top 5. I know it's only been 2 weeks, so hear me out. But I understand how important they can be to an offense. But Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, the only 2 big-name backs I've mentioned so far, and Nick Chubb, but Chubb's now hurt for the year. There's so many other running backs that you can bring in that can do the stuff that you do. There's an elite level, and then there's a bunch of other guys.
And guess what, elite level? You guys don't help teams win. Maybe in regular season, sure, but you don't win championships because of elite level running backs anymore. Sorry, it sucks. Back in the 1970s and 80s, you'd be highly paid compared
for sure.
to your peers. But that's not how the NFL works anymore.
Now, I know Ben in Orlando wants to talk about it. Ben, you're on the Fanatic.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Thanks for calling, Ben.
And damn, love you guys. But I am stunned and surprised, man. I can go back years, but we can go to Thursday, dog. If we didn't have that bomb in the first quarter to Devontae Smith, we were getting shut down morning, noon, and night. Like, literally, we rode swift, not because we had choices, but we had no choices. And I know what you're saying about the big backs. I don't need the big name. I don't need NFL Network to talk about the backs, but I'm saying you subtract our backs. Darren Sproles, Corey Clement. I can keep going.
Yeah, but here are the names you're saying.
Right?
Here are the names you're saying. Corey Clement was an undrafted free agent. Like, that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, I would love for Saquon, and I mean, I don't like Zeke, but you get what I'm saying. He's a top 5 pick. Saquon, Zeke, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. It'd be great if these guys can get elite running back money, but that's just not going to be given to them anymore because you can go, wow, wait, we can run 175 yards with DeAndre Swift, who's on his rookie contract, who was traded here for a 5th-round pick. We can basically run into the ground this year, which is such a disgusting thing, but that's how the league works, and we won't bring him back next year, and then we'll get our next guy on the final year of his rookie deal to try to make an impact for us next year. That's just how the NFL operates.
I got to agree, man. You got me doing a U-turn, man, because now that you mention it, right, we're going to ride these guys like horses, and the new league isn't the forever running back. It's the 2 to 3 years. Let him get a contract with somebody else, and once they get the contract, they pretty much collect a check, as Warren Sapp said, CTC, collect the check. You ain't got to win games because you just got paid, and we'll bring in somebody else. Good point. Even Westbrook wasn't like, what was he, Villanova, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we got – never mind. All right, you guys.
But Ben, I don't want to sound like a scoundrel. I want them to get their money, but they don't have the case for it anymore.
Hey man, I'm humble enough to say, dude, that's why I love you guys, because you make really good points.
You're the man, Ben. Have a good day. That's the only thing. They don't have a case anymore. Yeah. Derrick Henry, probably one of the best running backs that since 2010, right, in the NFL. Obviously, you have Adrian Peterson. Derrick Henry's up there. What has Derrick Henry and the Titans won?
Nothing.
Have they the furthest they've gotten to was one AFC Championship game. That's it.
It's just, it's not.
And it's not on one player. It isn't.
No.
It's on the whole team. But if you're allocating so much money to a running back, then you have to have Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback.
Right, and it's not that's the thing with Ben, too, and you brought this up and you did a good job of explaining where we're at. It's not that the running game isn't an important part of the game anymore.
It is.
But it's that there's just clearly a rotation that you can go through where you can win without having to pay one of these big backs. So why would you pay for something that doesn't help you win a more expensive price than guys that can help you?
And then the other thing is, we always, how it works when you get drafted. You drafted 1st overall, you get more money than the guy that gets drafted 2nd overall, 3rd overall. And then, of course, you get drafted in the 1st round, you get more money than the guy drafted in the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round. The biggest mistake teams can make nowadays is drafting a running back that high. It's one thing if Jahmyr Gibbs is in the 20s or, Bijan Robinson falls to 8 with the Falcons, which I thought was still a mistake because I think Ritter stinks.
Yeah, find a quarterback first.
So, and they have now made this mistake time and time again. They should never have drafted Kyle Pitts because they still, like Matt Ryan, they should not have drafted Kyle Pitts.
No.
The Falcons are drafting horribly in the first round the last couple of years. But let's forget Bijan for a second. Ezekiel Elliott, top 5 pick. What did the Cowboys ever win? They didn't, and they paid him a lot of money. Saquon Barkley, 4th overall pick. The days of running backs going top 5, I don't think we see that anymore.
Even McCaffrey. Like, what did the Panthers ever win with him? What have the 49ers won with him? That team's a juggernaut with or
now,
without.
the 49ers are a little bit different in terms of what because they didn't draft it. Their team was already built. So they brought in a very talented running back, but the Panthers weren't built.
Paid, like, it's still the pay structure.
Yep.
Like, the Panthers gave him the contract. You took on that contract. Like, and that team's good. The 49ers are very good. That's not the point. It's just more often than not, the running back does not factor into the overall success of the team.
Now, Broke G's checks in with a good point. Do we see more hybrid-type running backs, like a Debo Samuel? And then do they get paid?
Cordell Patterson, the joker position.
Right. Now, Cordell Patterson, he's at a point of his career where he's not going to get a big payday anymore, but maybe a guy like Debo can be. And maybe that's what the direction should be for running backs. Like the running back that carries the football 25 times and, is off the field on third downs, you're kind of losing that in the NFL. I had an interesting conversation with our program director, Chuck D'Amico, like a couple of years ago. And we were talking about the future of the industry, right? And he basically told me, hosts moving forward in the next, who knows how many years, they're going to have to do more than just host. And now let me make this perfectly clear before somebody tries to read into something. I'm not talking about what's going on. I'm talking about something completely different. All right, just to make that perfectly clear. Okay. So like one day down the road, Connor, when you're hosting middays and I get kicked out of here, you're not just going to come in here and host. You're also going to do content online. You're also going to do a lot of social media stuff. You're going to do much more than just come in behind the microphone.
The job has been diversified.
That's a running back in the NFL. A running back in the NFL is going to have to get 20 touches instead of 20 carries. Right, there's going to be the nights where DeAndre Swift carries the ball 25 times, but there's going to be the nights where he carries the ball for 10, gets 10 catches, blocks, is on the field a lot. And unfortunately, like this industry, the big money's gone, right, for that, right? So, like, DeAndre Swift, he might have an incredible season this year in this offense. He's not getting some monster contract.
Yeah, and guess what, folks? The other thing that pays into this is the quarterback. Because that position,
that's where the money's going.
They ain't slowing down. You've got a new highest paid quarterback or player in the NFL every 2 days.
Patrick Mahomes was dropped to the 8th highest paid player in the NFL because of deals that took place at the beginning of this season and during the offseason. You know what they did? They restructured the deal.
Yeah, they're
immediately.
And when that piece of the pie gets bigger, the running backs piece of the pie gets smaller. It's not getting easier for these guys.
And yeah, there are still your running backs like Derrick Henry. And like Saquon Barkley, who's still a very talented back. But then there's Patrick Mahomes with Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who, by the way, barely plays, and he was a former first round pick. 610-632-0975, the number to climb in. It is a Tuesday, Connor. Tuesday. You know what that means? It's Power Rankings Tuesday. We'll run through the NFL Power Rankings coming up next, see where the Eagles are at. I'll be doing this every single Tuesday. And as the show moves on, at some point I'll get into this Kelly Oubre signing. And I learned a little bit more about Oubre and Harden.
Oubre's a junior.
Yes, but do you know the Oubre and Harden backstory?
No, I have no idea.
Neither did I until this morning. I'll explain more coming up right here on The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Wheeler deals in Atlanta. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update is brought to you by Temple Football. Be a part of a big-time college football showdown when the Temple Owls battle the nationally ranked Miami Hurricanes Saturday at 3:30 p.m. at Lincoln Financial Field. The first 2,500 fans receive a Joe Klecko replica jersey as part of Temple's celebration of Champions Day. For tickets, visit owlstix.com. The Phils beat the Braves 7-1 last night, and a lot of it had to do with the man on the mound, Zach Wheeler, at a
here. Shut up. 1220, 97.5 The Fanatic. Not shut up, Bernie. Shut up, Connor. R.I.P. Bernie. Oh, man. It is 1220 here on The Fanatic. And, of course, our 12 o'clock hour is brought to us by Service First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at ServiceFirstHVAC.com. We'll get to the power rankings in a second because it's Tuesday.
You just dropped down mine.
Which is powering. Why?
Because you yelled at me. You told me to shut up.
Well, I signed off on the show on Friday. If you don't like me, I don't really care. So
wow. No one likes us. We don't care, huh? Very Philly of
I'm
you.
the one that actually follows that rule. Because we're frauds sometimes. We do the no one likes us, no one likes us. And then the second, like, Colin Cowherd takes a shot at us, it's like, how dare Colin Cowherd say that? Just, ignore it. Now, I can't. I can't ignore it. So, I eat that stuff up, and it gets me angry. But when it's a personal thing with me, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I wanted to say we got good news on Charlie Manuel yesterday. Thoughts and prayers are obviously with Charlie. The news came out the other day that Charlie suffered a stroke, and he was getting a procedure done in Florida, and, it happened while he was there, which, I guess that's the best place for that to happen. When you're around doctors. So good news yesterday, I think it was yesterday, came out that he was released from the ICU and that he is talking, texting, and he was watching the Phillies game yesterday. So I'm glad.
That's great.
It was a good win for the Phillies yesterday with the skip looking at the TV, watching the game. And you guys know from this show for the last 5 years, me and Ant had Charlie on a lot. So, we're thinking of Charlie and glad to hear that there's some good news from Charlie Manuel. Yesterday.
Man, we love you.
He's a good man. And Connor, you had the opportunity to drive him. Was it to here or to FanFest?
Here and FanFest. I've done it multiple times.
Yeah, Connor is Charlie's personal driver here in Philadelphia.
Such a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
And Missy, his wife, is amazing too.
Yes.
Just great, genuine people pulling for them.
Yeah, so we're rooting for Charlie and hope everything obviously works out. We want to skip around Red October, but we know he's a fighter. And there's just so many great words came out about Charlie when the news first broke from a lot of people around the area. So I just wanted to give, if you missed the update, he's out of the ICU and he was watching the Phils and talking and texting yesterday. So that makes me happy. All right, it's Tuesday. It's a power ranking Tuesday, Connor. So let me get a little NFL music, please. Thank you. We start at number 32, bottom of the NFL. Arizona Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon. Now, look, Jonathan Gannon's team stinks. We know that. But Jonathan Gannon, Mr. Wizard, Mr. Defensive Genius, he would never blow a big lead. 20-0 at halftime, and they lose to the New York Giants with Daniel Jones. So it's not like he had a 20-0 lead over Patrick Mahomes. He had a 20-0 lead over Daniel Jones and company and a banged-up Saquon Barkley, and the Giants come back and get the win. And I just remember seeing that face with Gannon with his arms folded. He had the headset on, and the Cardinals fall to 0-2, and I just get so much joy at it. I am going to hate watch Jonathan Gannon all season long, and it brings me so much joy that the Eagles are 2-0 and that loser's 0-2 to start the season.
I agree.
In agreement?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
All right, number 31, the Houston Texans. Really no surprise there. The Colts at 30. It's a shame what happened to Anthony Richardson. Not sure what his, how long he's going to be out. He had a concussion. He was playing well against Houston before he gets hurt, and then Minshew Mania comes in and just throws all over Houston. Now, it was Houston. Nobody really thinks Indianapolis is going to make any sort of noise. But they come in at number 30 for a second straight week. They're 1-1 on the season. Surprised they didn't pass the Bears, though. The Bears at 29, 0-2. Justin Fields is not looking good, man.
I still have faith. Bear down. NFC North champions.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to win that one.
No, I'm very far off on that call.
There was a play that went viral with Justin Fields with the cleanest pocket. Did you see this?
Yeah, everybody's open.
Guy had the cleanest pocket of all time. Everybody's open. He doesn't know who to throw to, so he then decides to tuck and run straight into the line. Not even try to go out wide to try to get some yards. No, he just sprints right into the back of his offensive lineman and takes a sack. He's looked awful so far to start the 2 seasons, except 2 weeks in the season, except for the rushing touchdowns. That helps my fantasy team out. But they stink.
Yeah, they're not good.
Number 28, your New York Football Giants. They're
Also
1-1, not good. Again, they came back and beat an awful Arizona Cardinals team and Jonathan Gannon, But the Giants at 28, Panthers at 27. They lost last night to the Saints. By the way, Michael Thomas looking good.
Yeah, I guess.
He's got Derek Carr throwing to him, but Michael Thomas looking good. I drafted him in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, he looks great against the Panthers.
Late stash. We'll see what happens.
And that vaunted Carolina defense.
Now, all those teams we went through, Cardinals, Texans, Colts, Bears, Giants, Panthers, they all are the same ranking as they were last week. Nothing changed. So now we got the first one with movement. The Vegas Raiders coming in at 26, dropping 3 spots from the previous week. They're going to be awful this year. I know Jimmy Garoppolo is going to a team with some talent. You know, you have Josh Jacobs and you have Devontae Adams, but Josh Jacobs had an awful game. Devontae Adams, I mean, he's pretty much going to be that entire offense with the Raiders.
Hey, put some respect on Hunter Renfro's name.
The Raiders dropped to 26th in the power rankings.
Yeah, they're not that good.
No, they're not good at all. The Patriots coming at 25, which is the same. The defense looked good again. You talked about it yesterday. You made a great point that we're so worried about how the Eagles looked against the Patriots. But then Tua and those weapons and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they didn't look much better against the Patriots on week 2.
No, not at all. I mean, yeah, their defense held the Patriots down more, but we knew the Eagles' defense wasn't their strength. I feel better.
All right, that's good. Coming in at 24, second straight week where the Rams have moved up in the power rankings.
Ooh.
They're at 24 now. They lost to the Niners. They did play well, though. And everybody's fired up about number 1 fantasy pickup, Puka Nacua.
Of course.
Have you seen him so far?
Not really, no.
Wait, you haven't? Oh, dude. He's the, hold on, let me pull up his numbers. He's the big fantasy pickup.
No, I've been seeing that, but someone already had him in one of my leagues. So
week 1, he has 10 catches for 119 yards. And in week 2 against the Niners defense, good Niners defense, 15 catches, 147 yards. So for you PPR people out there,
yeah,
even without a touchdown, the guy gives you about 30 points.
That usage is insane.
It is crazy. So if for some reason he's still not picked up in your fantasy leagues, pick him up until Cooper Kupp comes back. But they're at 24. Broncos coming at 23. They dropped 3 spots. They did play better in week 2. We'll see. I mean, who is Russell Wilson? Who is Sean Payton? And who is this Denver Broncos team? It might be the same as last year, where you thought maybe they're going to win some games this year, and then they just have a terrible season. I think they'll be better than what they were last year, though.
Mr. Unlimited looks very limited these days.
He had a good game. He threw for over 300.
Yeah, that whole Hail Mary thing was pretty cool.
Yeah, that added to the stats a little bit. Coming in at 22, dropping 5 spots. I think this is the biggest drop so far that we've seen. The Minnesota Vikings, which is interesting because we'll get to the Eagles in a little bit. And let me just check to make sure as I scroll up frantically while I do this live on the radio. Okay, the Eagles did not move in this one.
Ooh.
But you said,
right.
I do the NFL.com power rankings. You said they dropped on ESPN?
They did.
Which is funny. After a win, they drop.
Yeah, they moved to 2-0. They're worse.
What? But the Vikings dropped 5 spots on NFL.com. They're now 22. I wonder what happens if they end up turning things around. We had Kevin Seifert on last Thursday before, during the midday show. Of course, I did a pregame show too, and I played some of the clips. But Seifert was like, "Yeah, Minnesota likes Kirk Cousins. He really came off well in the show, the quarterback show on Netflix." But there's also a time where you got to start winning football, and they won games last year, but nobody really believed that they were this Super Bowl contender. And now you start the season 0-2. The Eagles lost, that's one thing, but the Bucs lost, I still can't believe to start.
Yeah, I like a lot of stuff on Netflix. Doesn't mean I want those people to play quarterback for my football team.
Good point. The Bucs, they're 2-0. They climbed up 3 spots. They're at 21. So there's your little preview before your Monday night matchup. The Eagles going up against the 21st ranked Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Titans climb up 2 spots. They're at 20. Commanders climb up 2 spots. They're at 19. They're 2-0. But, I mean, week 1, it was against an awful Arizona team. And then week 2 was against a curious Broncos team. Who knows where the Commanders go? I don't think they're going to do much this season, but they're at number 19. Packers, for all the hype that they got after their week 1 win, they dropped 3 spots to 18 after losing to the Falcons. The Steelers climb up 2 spots, winning last night against the Browns. They're now at 17. The Chargers dropped 4 spots. Now, this is here's the thing. I don't get the Chargers. I hate Brandon Staley with a burning passion because he's another one of these young coaches that they just gave him a job because he was young and he came from a Sean McVay tree or whoever's tree he came from. He's an idiot. He's not a good head coach. He's supposed to be a defensive mind. That defense stinks. And then, Justin Herbert, I know John went on this rant yesterday. What's the big game that he's won? Jalen Hurts, I know, I get it. In terms of throwing ability, you'll lean Herbert over Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts is the winner, man.
Yeah, dude, it was early in the postseason last year, and the Jaguars and Chargers probably have 12 fans combined, so it gets overlooked a little bit. But, that was one of the biggest collapses in NFL playoff history last year.
Yeah, and he couldn't do anything. I mean, by the defense, by the entire team, but Herbert's a big part of it. You got to keep on putting up points. We've talked about this a million times that you can't take your foot off the gas pedal in the NFL. So they're at 16, dropping 4 spots. The Seahawks at 15, climbing up 3 spots. The Seahawks, that was a nice win over the Lions. That's another confusing sort of deal where I go, who was the Lions? Lions had a great week 1 win against the Chiefs, and then a bad week 2 loss against the Seahawks. Falcons at 14 is just pitiful. They're not.
No, they're not the 14th best team in football.
Let me ask you this. Are the Atlanta Falcons a top half of the league team?
No.
Exactly. They coming in at 14, climbing 2 spots because they're 2-0. Desmond Ridder stinks. Don't get fooled. The Browns in at number 13. They don't move at all. The Bengals drop 1 more spot to 12. If it's not the Bengals, if it's not Joe Burrow, their start of the season, they should probably be 15 or 16.
Yeah, they should be lower.
There's obviously respect for who they are, who they have on that team. 12 is probably too high for how they've played. Now, week 1, the weather was pretty bad, but there was no excuse last week.
They scored a little bit more. They looked like a competitive team against probably a playoff team in Baltimore, but still, it's just not a good start for a team that was in the AFC Championship game.
And who knows what happens with Joe Burrow. Whether or not he plays in week 3, well, that's something that we'll keep an eye on as the week goes on. Jets dropped 2 spots to 11. That should continue to drop as the weeks go on. It will continue to drop. It's just a shame because they have such a good defense. Breece Hall is a good running back. They have Garrett Wilson, but they also have another Wilson. They have Zach Wilson as the starting quarterback. He was their leading rusher, by the way, with 36 yards. Breece Hall had 4 carries.
Jeez.
That just can't. I know they're playing the Cowboys. They got to throw the football, but at the same time, you can't go down 7-0 and completely abandon the run, especially when Zach Wilson's your quarterback. Saints climb 4 spots up to 10. The team that I think can win 10 games, the sneaky team in the NFC. I don't think they do anything come playoff time, but that was my sneaky team that could win 10 or 11 games this year because of the division they're in. I mean, look, the Falcons are considered the 14th best team in football. The Saints are better than the Falcons.
Much better.
And I know it hasn't been pretty games. Week 1 was an ugly game against the Titans, and then yesterday wasn't that pretty either, but 2-0 for the Saints to start. I have something on the Saints that I want to get into after we're done the power rankings. Jacksonville, number 9, they dropped 2 spots. I think that's kind of unfair because you did go up against the Chiefs. I think probably part of it is they only scored 9 points against a bad Chiefs
hit the end
defense.
zone.
Yeah, that's probably why they dropped 2 spots. So the Jags at number 9, but still in the top 10. Detroit drops 2 spots. They're at number 8. I think that's where they were to start the season. Baltimore climbs up from 10 to 7. J.K. Dobbins is out. We'll see what that does to them. But obviously Lamar Jackson's threat to run can also do a running back committee there with Gus Edwards. Buffalo back climbing. They go up 2 spots. They're at number 6. And now we've reached our top 5. The Miami Dolphins coming in at number 5. The offense still looked good. It wasn't the same as week 1, but still looked good against New England Patriots. The Dallas Cowboys coming at number 4. No movement, which that means the Eagles are still ahead of the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles are at number 3. The Chiefs are at number 2. And the Niners, once again, coming in at number 1 after beating the Rams. Now, Connor, you mentioned on ESPN the Eagles dropped and the Cowboys surpassed them.
Yes, it was Niners, Cowboys, then Eagles. Oh. I know.
NFC or
no? That's
NFL
1, 2, 3 power rankings.
Okay,
but I'm going to rip off a good one here. I haven't done a good one of these in a minute. In what world are the Chiefs ahead of the Eagles in the power rankings right now?
That's a great question.
What if they watched? You just lost to the Lions at home in the season opener, and then you go ahead and you play Jacksonville to what, a 17-9 final? What are you talking about?
So the guy, Eric, who puts it together, he writes the blurbs for all the teams.
Oh,
right?
blurb Eric. Okay,
so
go ahead.
here's his blurb on the Chiefs. I heard some chirping about my decision to drop the Chiefs only one spot in these rankings after they lost in week 1. My defense of that moved and ended with Travis Kelce and Chris Jones. They were back on the field in week 2, and they made their imprint on the gutsy win at Jacksonville. Kelce scored on what looked like a blowing off steam drive because of the isn't that the song?
I guess
that's the Taylor Swift. Like that.
Which one?
There's a Taylor Swift song called "Blowing Off Steam." I'm pretty sure. And because of the Travis Kelce. Because the play-by-play guy made a joke, and now it's all over the place.
No, I get it.
Like, all right, we're done with this joke. It's been used once. Leave it at that. Jones had multiple huge plays, a 4th down sack, another half sack, and a batted pass. In addition to multiple pressures against the Jaguars, Anton Harrison, having those two playing allowed Patrick Mahomes to have a merely mortal game, and the Chiefs secured a big win. They aren't going anywhere for now. So that's why he still has them at 2.
This is why that's BS. Because if Patrick Mahomes, if you lost a game that Patrick Mahomes played the full time to a team that didn't score a touchdown, you should fire that franchise into the sun. They scored 9 points against you. The Chris Jones thing, okay, cool. It's good to have him back. But how in the world are the Chiefs better than the Eagles to this point in the season? I don't get it.
2 weeks. It's power rankings.
It's wrong.
And they got your response out of it. And
that's true.
And that's what they want. Speaking of Saints, I said I had something on the Saints. So I was watching that game last night. I sound like a broken record player because I do this every single year. The obsession that they have with Taysom Hill.
He got a lot of use last night.
It's nauseating. It's nauseating. Like, I get the guy can do a lot of things. I'm sure you can find a million players that can do a lot of things. It's nauseating that he is a rich man. It's like Daniel Jones, that he got paid. It disgusts me. Yesterday, 9 carries, 75 yards. I saw them throwing fades to him in the end zone in week 1 and 2. A former quarterback that sucked, right? Like he's not a good quarterback. He can't throw the football well. Is getting thrown fades in the end zone. I don't get it. And I thought maybe once Sean Payton left, the new head coach would have made a change. No. They forced this guy. You know, there's that girl that's interviewing all like the hip hop artists and they think she's a media plant. Do you know who I'm talking about? I don't know her name.
Kind of. Yeah.
She basically just asks disrespectful questions the entire time and keeps a very monotone voice. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I think Taysom Hill's a plant.
Who's planted Taysom Hill?
The government? I don't know. Because the guy doesn't do anything exceptional. But let's throw him a fade. Oh, they're in the red zone. And this is before I found out Jamal Williams was out. But I'm going, why is Jamal Williams not back there? Oh, it's because they need to get Taysom Hill his touches to try to show his worth.
Birds aren't real, and Taysom Hill's NFL career.
It's just disgusting to me that Taysom Hill is still in the NFL and they still try to utilize him. And if you just look at his numbers per year, any other person putting that kind of production is not on a team.
4 years ago, it would have bothered me. Now it doesn't.
No, it still bothers me.
Because I just get to laugh.
I'm reminded every year. I'm reminded every year. I have to watch the red zone. Here's a pass to the end zone to Taysom Hill.
The Eagles are good enough. Oh. It's fun to laugh at other organizations doing stupid stuff, knowing the Eagles would never do that. That's why I enjoy it.
It's just embarrassing to the NFL.
It is.
Stupid Taysom Hill. All right, let's go to the phones. Not to the Comcast Bizarre line, but line 1. We're going to John in Westchester. John, how are you?
It's very good. I'm a big fan of the show.
Oh, thank you. What's your last name?
That Connor kid. I don't give my last name on phone calls.
Oh, thank you. This is John Kincaid, by the way, everyone, for who's listening. What's going on, John?
Can we get this man the hotline?
Just had lunch in the borough, too, so it was really nice because Christina's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday.
I heard you talking earlier about whether the Braves are spooked, and I heard you and Connor having some good conversation on that. I do have a little inside dirt.
Please.
Things, and I shared one this morning. That, first off, on the record, Brian Snitker has already said the team that that nobody wants to face is the Phillies.
Yeah.
And he offered that without prompting, that the team nobody wants to face is the Phillies.
And I'm pretty sure it never came out who But they said one National League manager said, and I'm pretty sure it makes sense to be Brian Snitker. Remember last year during the playoffs, they said it was like 3 hours in hell every game in Philly?
That was probably Brian.
That would be my guess, yeah.
Because Connor and I sat next to each other at Game 4. And last year, before the Noah Syndergaard start, where they clinched against the Braves. And I walked into the seat, and I said to him, I was down and talked to some Braves players, some that are maybe not in Atlanta anymore, a couple of them. And they all said, you people are nuts up here. It was like the bullpen pitchers had to have communications in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because of the noise.
Yeah.
And they were saying, this is hell. They're like, this is crazy. They were like, but they were saying it with such respect that it made me smile. But one of the things that was tipped off to me, too, is that somewhere in the Braves clubhouse, there is a picture of the Rhys Hoskins bat spike.
Oh, is that right?
Now, that could be in a player's locker or it could be just on a bulletin board. But I think I've got great sources, and they've told me they have seen that picture frequently. So that tells me they've been in their heads all year long.
Yeah.
That they're there. That it's part of it. And I can promise you this. The DNA of an Atlanta sports fan is they are Wile E. Coyote. And I said it this morning. They believe the world is going to fall on their heads. This isn't going to work. 28-3 scarred them in a way that's crazy. But then they win a World Series, and they're right back to it. This morning, my old station, their morning show. Are you worried about the Braves? Are you concerned now they've lost 4 in a row?
I love that.
I mean, it's already in their heads. Whereas Philly people, we will call our baby ugly if it's ugly.
Yeah.
Like if your baby's ugly, people will just acknowledge, yeah, that kid's he's one of our kids. He's just not good looking. Whereas in Atlanta, they take it like thin skin. If you criticize the local teams, well, you're not supporting them. You're not being. Here we're much more objective and much more highly critical too. So there's some good things, some bad things. I can assure you, the last thing they want to see is the Phillies get that top wild card. That's why I think Spencer Strider is going to come out to the mound tonight in his tight pants. Probably has them in the dryer like Connor.
Oh, yeah.
For like 3 hours this afternoon.
Gotta keep them tight.
He's going to take that. He's going to take the mound tonight, thinking it's Game 7 of the World Series to try to shut down the Phillies.
And it would be great if the Phillies just beat the hell out of that guy. That would be great.
Even if you could do, they gave him his longest inning the last outing, something like 32 pitches or something that he hadn't done all year. There's things that you can just get in his head. They don't have to beat him up tonight, but just get in his head a little bit. And I tell you, again, you said it before. They win one game in Atlanta in a divisional series. Should they get there, I absolutely believe they come back here at 1-1. They'll win it just like they did last year. The series will not go back to Atlanta.
I love that. John,
their DNA is scary.
John, you're the man. I'm glad you enjoyed your lunch, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Very nice. See you guys.
Thanks, Johnny.
John Kincaid on the Line 1 hotline. So you see, for all the people that were all in my mentions yesterday when I said it was a statement win, no, it's not. The Phillies stink. The Braves are so much better. The Braves aren't playing anybody. They played their starting lineup yesterday. And Zach Wheeler shut them down, and so did the bullpen. 3 shutout innings. The Phillies still have a chance to make magic happen in the playoffs. And I know you, the guy listening right now, that's rolling his eyes, saying, oh, my God, here's Chunas on his stupid antics again, Mr. Homer Phillies fan. I know you, the second the wild card round starts, you got the rally towel going. You're going to be fired up. You're gonna probably play that clip of the guy we're talking about the fight and said you'll be playing that at your house. Like, I know all that's back in a couple weeks. You just got to get through these next couple weeks. But you know what's a pretty damn good start? Winning Game 1 in Atlanta and sending shivers down the spines of the players, the fans, and also their radio hosts who are asking questions. Are you worried about the Braves who have 96 wins this season? I freaking love it, man. I love it. So for all you naysayers, come on. You got to get over here with me. Enjoy the ride a little bit. 610-632-0975. Coming up next, if you want to talk about the Phillies, feel free. I would love to talk to you. But I also want to talk about Kelly Oubre Jr. signing with the Sixers yesterday. I'll give my thoughts on the signing. I'll tell you right now, I loved it. Why James Harden needs to come back. But why he might not, and not because of his prior stuff with Daryl Morey. I learned something about Oubre and Harden. Oh, man, this league. That's why we say it. This league. Dude, don't look anything up.
I don't know anything about this.
All right, I can't wait to tell you next right here. 120. 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas. 1 o'clock hour brought to us by Ferguson HVAC Line Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. So, Connor, as you know, and I've been telling the audience, my wife's away. She's in Seattle. She flew out Saturday morning, won't be back till tomorrow evening.
Yeah, is she enjoying herself? Have you checked in?
Yeah, she's having fun. They've been hiking and going all over the place. I've learned something. Apparently, Seattle food is not very good.
Well, yeah.
Now, she doesn't eat fish.
She went to Seattle and she doesn't eat fish.
Yeah, and so,
Well, that's on
obviously
her.
you have the big fish market and whatnot, blah, blah.
Yeah, all they got is seafood.
But she said nothing's really been, it's just been bland. Like, everything's been bland out
Yeah,
in
welcome
Seattle.
to the Pacific Northwest.
I don't know. Like, isn't like Portland supposed to be like a foodie place?
No, I think they got a bunch of like trees and stuff.
Okay. Well,
I don't know. Maybe it's foodie, but that's not my type of food.
all right. So the food apparently is not that good in the Seattle area. They're staying at an Airbnb that has a chicken coop and a hen.
Love that.
And a rooster.
Oh, the
And
rooster goes off.
they're getting the cock-a-doodle-doo at like 5
what
in
did
the
you
morning.
say?
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock-a-doodle-doo. What is it?
You said cock-a-doodle-doo?
Whatever. Look. Whatever.
Anyway.
You get what I'm saying, Connor?
I get what you're saying, Andy.
So he's doing the cock-a-doodle-doo. Whatever the hell you want to call it.
It's not that hard.
I can't figure it out.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Bang. Look at you.
So he's doing that at like 5 in the morning, Seattle time, which I get is 8 o'clock in the morning here, but they're still not adjusted. So that's got to suck. You're trying to
it's
sleep
tough.
a little bit and you hear the rooster.
They'd be down one rooster if I was there.
Oh, then you'd probably get sued.
I'll buy another rooster when I leave.
Okay. Maybe they like that one.
I'll just relocate the rooster.
But anyways, so while she's been gone, I've had my complaint. I love my wife, as you guys all know. I hope you know that. She doesn't eat like fish. She doesn't eat red meat, right? So it's like chicken. Every night's chicken in the house. Not gonna lie, last couple of nights, I did a steak last night on the grill.
Love that.
Grilled salmon the night before that. I've eaten healthy. It's not like I've been doing like the pizza and Chinese food takeout and Chick-fil-A and all that kind of stuff. No, I've been eating healthy. I try to all the time, but it's been nice to kind of expand a little bit from the daily issues of chicken.
You're tired of the chicken tendies every day?
God, it's just every night's chicken. Something's chicken related every single night. So it's been nice the last couple of days. But I said to you the other day that I could never eat pasta again the rest of my life, and I'd be all right with it.
Which is insane.
Uncle Frank wants to talk about it. What's up, Uncle Frank?
Happy. Nice segue.
Thank you.
Happy Tuesday to all. Everybody good?
Yeah. How are you?
Can't complain.
Great, man. Hey, listen. You guys are kicking ass and taking names, so I'll salute.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good for you.
Thank
Although,
you.
I
hear you.
I hear you. How's Connor over there? Is he looking zapperish?
Yeah, he's wearing his zapperish. I thought you were gonna say dapperish. He's wearing his Phillies Hawaiian shirt that he wears after every Phillies win.
So, oh really? Okay, I'm down. The Brutes were flexing their guns last night.
Yeah. All right. So I'll ask you. That's a bit of a statement win last night, no?
Yes.
There's people that are shooting me down.
Yeah, Andrew, honest to God, I don't get it, and you can just don't react to any of that bull bleep.
No, but it's not one or two people, Uncle Frank, and that's why I'm like, there is a collective bad attitude in Philadelphia right now with the Phillies, and I know that it has not been pretty, but it wasn't pretty last year, and so that's all I can say is just look at last year. Just when you thought that they were done, they all of a sudden make a run in the World Series. Why are you ignoring that?
Yeah, I mean, they want to live in Cleveland, Atlanta, Cincinnati. I don't know. Hey, plus with that game last night, the Tunis bar car is booked for the rest of the series. So,
oh yeah, Good.
All right, listen, you. Where did I go wrong? You can't do, Connor, you're with me on this.
I don't know. What am I with you on?
He's going to talk about the pasta.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, it's a staple. Aunt Mimi makes damn good pasta.
Look, I'm not saying pasta's bad. I'm not saying pasta stinks. All I'm saying is those questions, like if you're on social media and they do the one's got to go. I could live without pasta the rest of my life.
Well, you're crazy.
I've been by myself since Christy left with the baby. Right. You would think I'd go easy meals.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's easy for me to throw steak on the grill.
Wait, what kind of steak did you have?
Little T-bone action yesterday.
Oh, damn. Dig it.
And then the night before that was a little salmon. I have this sriracha mayo that I bought from the store. You know, put that on top of the salmon, a little asparagus on the side. Bang, beautiful.
Oh, wow.
And I'd rather do that than a thing of pasta and sauce.
Oh, pasta. You get pasta. You get zucchini noodles. Well, listen. I feel there's a void in your life, and I should have raised you better, I guess. But
well, look, you tried, and I appreciate you got me this far.
You want me to comment on Coach Prime?
Real quick, yes.
No, I mean I think it's great. I think he's a great motivator, marketing himself and the program. I just going into NFL, his voice won't be as impactful and all.
Yeah, it works more. It works more in college. And thanks, Uncle Frank. I appreciate the call. It works more in college than it would in the NFL, but who knows? I mean, Connor, you brought up the question about if he went to the Dallas Cowboys. It's such a circus there already. Who knows?
Right. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I just don't like guys that feel like they changed the sport. Guys that feel there's people that just have that certain aura about them where they're just winners. Like Jalen Hurts is one of those dudes, right? Where you can say what you want about, I don't think he has the arm strength. I don't think he has this, that, and the other thing. And we all had these questions. But when you look back on it, it's just like, oh, no. Everything he's ever said and the way he carries himself and the way he walks, he just feels like a winner. Prime has always been a winner. Like, he's just always felt like a guy who gets results, and he has to this point in his coaching career. And I don't like to mess with folks like that.
No, you wouldn't want that. It would send a shiver down our spine, Just like you kind of had that shiver yesterday already about the Dallas Cowboys. They're a good football team.
Micah scares me.
They're a good football team. It's funny. I was going to make a comparison, but I bit my tongue from saying it. But I'll say it now. I don't care. For some reason, there are people that don't believe last night's win was a statement win for the Phillies. I believe that was a statement win. In Atlanta, 7-1. Bats come to life. I know they went up against Kyle Wright, but the bats came to life. And Zach Wheeler pitched well, and the bullpen had a dominant 3 innings, no runs. Bunch of strikeouts. It was great. That's a statement win. The Braves played all their players. They didn't sit 5 guys. Somebody tweeted at me yesterday, they're just resting people. No, they're not. They started their everyday starting lineup yesterday. I'm sure there are Braves fans talking about the Phillies today, just like some Eagles fans are talking about the Cowboys right now, ignoring the fact that they are dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
We ignored that the Cowboys are a good football team.
There's another factor with the Cowboys, though, where they're just chokers, like absolute choke artists.
Yeah.
And that's not really a factor. That would be like if the Mets were part of the conversation.
Okay, fair.
The Cowboys just find a way, no matter how good they are, to underachieve when the lights are brightest, which is ironic because their owner wants to keep putting them on the brightest stage possible.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the Phillies don't have that. They're not like playoff
fair
chokers.
Point. But there's a fact that they are talented.
Yes.
And just because they're behind the Braves doesn't mean the Braves are far and away superior team.
Correct.
The Eagles are not far away superior team over the Cowboys.
No.
I believe the Eagles are the better team, but I don't think it's a 3 or 4 win difference.
Yeah, anyone who thinks
comes down to the end.
It's just the hatred of the Cowboys clouding your judgment.
Right. And I'm sure there's a lot of Braves fans doing that this morning with the Phillies, saying, that loss meant nothing. The Phillies stink. Blah, blah, blah. We own this division. We always have.
You know, it's funny. It feels more like the Phillies fans are letting their hatred of the Phillies cloud their judgment about how close they are.
Yeah, that's true. which I don't understand that. I think now's a good time to just back up the squad. Let's go to Brad on, I don't know if it's a cell or, just a CC. What's up, Brad?
Center City.
Center City?
I'm just curious. Has Jalen had like Tom Brady's career, or has he had one stunning year and he's actually played like trash in the first 2 games of the following year that he's gotten a massive, massive contract? Because the way you're talking about him, you're putting him in the same breath as Deion Sanders. You're just making it seem like this guy's just an overall winner. Hasn't even won a Super Bowl yet, but hey, man, the guy's just the biggest winner on the planet.
How do you feel? You feel good?
I do feel good. I do. Because
I like it when you call in because I feel like you are frustrated, and this is your way to just kind of let off some steam. So I don't mind it when you call.
I just don't need you. I don't need you to be like, oh, dude, who are you a fan of? Who are you a fan
I'm
of?
not asking you. I'm asking if you feel better.
I'm glad. I mean, I'm just curious. Explain to me how Jalen Hurts is just the biggest winner on the planet.
I think we see how he leads, right? Nobody's saying he's the biggest winner on the planet. We see how he leads. And no, he has not had a good start to the season. I say he's had 2 good quarters out of 8. So he's 2 for 8. That's not good. But
I mean, he somehow managed to piss off his quote unquote, best friend that came over to Philadelphia because Jalen was there. I don't know. Is that due to him?
Do you really think he's pissed off? Do you really think A.J. Brown's pissed off, like, at Jalen Hurts, the person, or do you think he was angry in the moment that he wasn't getting the football?
I'm pretty sure that NFL players have egos bigger than we've ever seen. So, yeah, if Jalen Hurts doesn't keep those,
but do you think that their relationship is now tattered and it's good?
Why do any of us care about their personal relationship? We care about their football relationship.
Right, and you know what's going to happen? A.J. Brown's still going to have close to 1,000 yards receiving this year, and he'll probably have close to double-digit touchdowns this year.
I mean,
it's 2 games.
Listen, I hope you keep saying it's 2 games, but then when it's going to be 4 games or it's going to be 5 games, and he's played 1 good game out of 4.
I've already said if the Buccaneers game is ugly, I will start getting concerned. But through 2 games, through Belichick week 1, which I'm not going to ignore, and the offense did look a little bit better in week 2 against the Vikings, but the defense started letting them come back in the second half. Look, they are still growing with Brian Johnson and Sean Desai.
Watch the game flow of the Vikings game.
Yes.
Do you understand the Vikings literally took the game and handed it to the Eagles? Justin Jefferson was on the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, and manages to fumble the ball into the end zone so you guys get the ball back, and there's a 10-point swing. You were beyond.
I said that was the biggest moment in the game. If you listen to me
God, and it wasn't anything the Eagles did.
I know. It hasn't been pretty, but they're 2-0. We'd be feeling a lot worse if they were 0-2 or 1-1.
Yeah, but the way you guys talk about it, you're delusional. You just think that you just think that they're like untouchable, like it's Teflon. Everything's just gonna fall off of them. Like, stop.
What is your blood pressure medication? Because I need to get on that. It seems like it's working well.
I'm just hoping this helps him out.
I'll tell you this right now. I'm sure your guys' blood pressure at the radio station's pretty high too with Gargano.
All right, I knew that was coming at some point. Whatever. Listen, he let off his steam. He's a fan. I don't know if he's a fan of another team. I don't know if he's a fan of the Eagles. It's fine, Connor. It's okay. You don't have to dump it. We all know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking public. Everybody knows what's going on. And I love how I'm the guy behind the microphone that has to get the tweets all the time. I don't know what's going on. Whatever I'm reading, you're reading, all right? It's like Joel Embiid. I remember the Ben Simmons situation. Joel Embiid comes up to we did media day. And Ann asked Joe, like, what are your thoughts? He goes, listen, I don't know. I'm just reading what you guys read. That's the same thing here.
Yeah, but at least now Joel's not in the same situation again with a totally different point guard in this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, welcome back to another year of the Sixers. Listen.
Kelly Oubre's going to save us.
So, Jalen Hurts has not played well. And so he clearly isn't listening. He just wanted to call in and somehow bring up the situation that's going on in the station. Whatever. That's what gets him going in life because he's miserable elsewhere, right? He hates his life, so he has to call into a radio station to bitch and moan and try to bring other people down. That's how that guy, Fred was his name once. Whatever his name is, that's how he gets by life, and it's a shame. I wish he could just come over here and we could just sit down and talk, have a beer together, and try to work through things. But that's not who he is. He'd rather just be a miserable jerk off. But whatever, that's a conversation for another day. When it comes to Jalen Hurts, he's not had a good start to the season.
No.
And if you've listened to the show, I've pointed that out, and I've pointed out that I didn't think he'd be the same guy as he was last year. But ultimately, the guy is a winner. Ultimately, the guy does have a leadership quality that the team backs him with. And yes, there was an altercation, I guess you could say, between him and A.J. Brown on the sideline. And what happened? Hurts goes to him the next two plays. One was caught for a touchdown. It was brought back because of a holding penalty. He goes back to him again, and there was a missed pass interference call. I'm not worried about Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown.
No, you shouldn't be.
And if anything, A.J. Brown should have a talking to. If anything, A.J. Brown should be – I remember we played the clip on Friday of Nick Sirianni after week 1 saying, listen, I would love to get Dallas Goedert and DeAndre Swift touches, but it's not like we're throwing a bums in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. He needs to say the same thing to A.J. Brown. Listen, love to get you more touches, but we're throwing also to Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. And, oh, by the way, DeAndre Swift had 175 yards rushing. So why you got to settle down a little bit. We'll get you yours. You'll get yours, don't you worry.
Yeah, that happens. That happens to great teams. I mean, do you see the run that the Miami Heat, we're going cross-sport a little bit here, but the run that Miami Heat went on last year in the postseason, do you remember Jimmy Butler screaming at Eric Spoelstra back and forth in timeout?
Yeah, and what happened?
I think they're fine.
They got to the NBA championship.
Like, listen, it happens in sports. It's not that deep.
No, it's not. So that's going to be worked out. And, before this guy went off the deep end with his trolling call, but I'll respond to the points. It's fine. It has not been pretty through 2 weeks. And if they look ugly against Tampa, which I again have said this week, that's a different conversation. But I'm not going to make a jump to a conclusion because that's what a lot of people do. Oh, Brian Johnson stinks. Well, Brian Johnson, just because the game plan sucked, which I pointed out, I did not like the game plan going into it. He made the adjustment. They ran the football. You heard Jeff McClain. Give him credit for it. You heard Nick Sirianni. We played his press conference yesterday. He spoke yesterday for the first time since seeing the tape. He gave Brian Johnson and his team full credit for making that change to the rushing attack because that's what was going to work the rest of the game, and it did work. So, yeah, you know what? Guy had a bad game plan going into it. Made a good adjustment. I've seen coaches have bad game plans and not adjust because I believe culture is more important than the scheme or vice versa, whatever Chip Kelly was on that day. Right? We've seen Chip Kelly be set in his way and refuse to make changes. We've seen Doc Rivers be set in his ways and refuse to make changes. And ultimately, it hurt the team. We saw it with Joe Girardi playing Johan Camargo over Rhys Hoskins in the 4th game of the regular season last year because he had bad numbers against Max Scherzer, as if Johan Camargo was going to make some difference. There are coaches that don't make adjustments. So I will give Brian Johnson the credit for making the adjustment.
Doc Rivers.
Doc Rivers.
Sorry, I just had a cough. I don't know why you brought him up.
I did bring him up before you coughed.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, you just went and missed it during my rant.
I couldn't hear it over the cough.
That's fine.
I was too worried about that.
So, look, we'll see what happens week 3 against Tampa. People are already saying this could be a tough game. I'm not worried. It's going to be like I was the last 2 weeks. Yeah, the teams came close. I never thought there was a moment they were going to lose.
Yeah, we have till week 7 till this gets hard.
Yeah.
You could lose those like a game or two in there, but it's not going to be till they play the Dolphins where we look at a game and say, okay, this is where they really have to pick it up. So for better or for worse, you can take the next couple weeks and say, yeah, he wasn't that great, but it's okay. We can live with that.
Exactly. All right. 610-632-0975, the number to climb it. What was I going to do here? Oh, we have big news in baseball.
Oh, do we?
No, don't hit the drop.
Oh, come on. I got it.
No.
I changed the color and everything.
No, the Miami Marlins have claimed Matt Moore, former Philly great, off waivers.
Huge.
From the Cleveland Guardians. So
having a nice year.
That's how they're going to try to make their push to the playoffs because they are still in the playoff race. Let me tell you the wild card standings after yesterday. So right now the wild card standings are as follows in the National League. The Phillies still on top. Now have a 3.5 game lead over Arizona. The Diamondbacks are the second team, and the Cubbies lose again. They are the third team, tied with the Reds. Reds the first team out. The Cubs have the tiebreaker, and the Marlins are a half game out. So it's really between 5 teams that will make the 3 spots in the wild card. The Phillies are pulling away. So out of 4 teams, Arizona, Chicago, Cincinnati, and Miami, 2 of them will make it. I guess you could throw San Francisco in there because they've won 6 out of their last 10. They're 2 games out of the wild card. I'll ask you right now. Arizona, Chicago, Cincinnati, Miami, San Fran. Give me 2 who makes it.
Arizona for sure.
Okay. I love how you say for sure. And remember, they were really good at one point, and then they had a collapse, and now they're back.
Yeah,
I don't think there is a for sure with any of these teams.
Arizona's for sure a playoff team.
Okay.
I don't know if they're for sure the second playoff team, second wild card seed. Damn, the third one, I feel like right now I want to say the Marlins.
I was about to say the Fish because they do have arms.
They do.
Like Arizona, they have Zach Gallen, and that's it. The rest of the rotation kind of stinks.
But their offense is solid.
Yeah, but the rest of that rotation kind of stinks. The Cubs have Jordan Steele, and the rest of the rotation kind of stinks. Hendricks is a guy that's pitched for a while, so he knows how to
but
pitch.
Arizona offense greater than Chicago's to me.
All right, and then there's Cincinnati, who I give them credit for still hanging around.
Fun team. They're going to be good in a year or two. Like, they've got something to be excited about in Cincinnati baseball, but not for the postseason this year.
Notice you didn't say San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. Rub it in on your boy again.
The Fighting Gabes. It's a shame. Poor Gabe Kapler, manager of the year a couple years ago, just falling apart again, per usual. Wow, I feel bad for the guy.
You have an option here. Jonathan Gannon can go 0-17, or Gabe Kapler can go 0 in whatever the Giants have left. Which would you pick?
Gabe Kapler. Because the Cardinals weren't expected to be good at all this year. Not that many people were really expecting the Giants to be any good, but he has cachet, and I think he has fooled so many people except me and a handful of other people. And so I want the true Gabe Kapler to come out.
Okay.
That's why. Like, Jonathan Gannon just stinks. And I think people will realize that. But I need baseball people. Like, there are baseball people that still think Gabe Kapler's a good manager.
Yeah.
Because I can't explain how they win with this roster. Neither can I. But when it comes down to it, they will fail.
Okay.
Over and over and over again.
I just wanted to see who you hated more.
So, Gabe Kapler. Gabe Kapler, for sure.
Love that. Okay.
Like Jonathan Gannon, I know he's part of the reason why they lost the Super Bowl, but there's all kinds of circumstances to it.
Yeah, I'd go Gannon, but
All right.
that's just because Kapler's been gone so long, I don't even care anymore.
Speaking of baseball, I want to ask you this question. Now, you're a baseball guy, so
I'm a seam head.
You're watching every single day. I was listening to John and Bob this morning and Pat talk about the baseball rule changes. Remember many, many, many moons ago when they added a pitch clock and the bases were bigger, and then the pickoff rules changed a little bit. And there were a lot of baseball purists, and I'm one of them, but I did not have any complaints except for the bigger bases because I thought that was weird. I haven't noticed it.
No, not
like really
not
at all. So 100% success?
Yeah.
Like, is there anybody still complaining about the rules?
There's one thing that still kind of weirds me out.
Okay.
The disengagements, I still 100%. If you ask me right now how the disengagement rule works as far as how many pickoffs you're allowed, I would not be able to tell you.
Okay.
I don't know how that works. My brain can't comprehend because is it 2? Is it 3? Do they do it multiple times? Does it change on base? That one just feels weird to me. But as long as they can enforce it and no one argues it, then I guess it's fine, and they have handled that. I love all of it. I do.
I'd say over the last 3 years, all the rules that they've added. The only thing I don't like is the guy on second to start extras. But it's only during the regular season to speed up the game. So, like, as much as I don't like it, and here's why I don't like it. I don't like it because I don't think teams play it well.
Yes.
Like
Bunt.
And I know that we've talked about this, right? The whole
JT.
Yeah, but you're starting an inning with a runner on second if you're the home team. You got through the top of the 10th. It's still a 5-5 ball game. You pinch hit. It's the bottom half of the inning, right? So, like, they're not going to bat again, probably. The game will probably be over by the time their part of the order comes back up.
Yeah.
I would put a guy in the bunt to move the guy runner over to third, or whoever's in the lineup, if they can bunt a little bit, move him over to third.
And then guess what? Just pitch run for the guy at third. You literally have to hit a ball to the grass.
Yeah.
And it's ball game.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I hate it the most is because I hate how teams strategize for it or don't strategize at all because they hope that they just hit a home run and the ball game's over, which is kind of disgusting.
Yeah,
but whatever.
The rules are awesome, though, man.
Universal DH, you know how it worked out for the Phillies last year. Bryce Harper would not have played. And even early in the season, this year, Bryce Harper would not have played.
It's funny because baseball I don't know that they were on the brink, But like the expression that comes to mind is like these rules the past couple of years have brought them back from the brink of going towards extinction.
So John brought up a stat, not a baseball stat, but a viewership stat. National, like the national baseball games, like the ESPN Sunday nights, the Fox Sports Game of the Week, all that kind of stuff. So not your local broadcasting.
Right.
The average age has dropped 7 years this year.
Yeah, that's huge.
So it's still 50-something, so let's not like say that it's a major win just yet. But 7 years, that means a lot of younger people are watching baseball again.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is because of rule changing. I will always say gambling is a big part of it. Like that will always be a big part of it, no matter like any sport that sees a rise in viewership, gambling's a big part of it.
Has to be, right?
It is. Like, do you think I cared about Saints-Panthers last night?
Maybe.
Not really. It's football, so I'm going to watch.
Watching Taysom Hill.
That's true. It's football, so I'm going to watch. But if I also put in a little action, I'm watching all 4 quarters.
Exactly, yes.
Instead of going at halftime like, all right, it's late. Like, I was already up late Sunday night watching the game. Like, let me call it an early day here. Or, because there was a doubleheader last night, I went laptop and TV. So now I got 2 games on instead of just 1 because I might have had action on both. Right? Like, I think gambling is a big part of viewership going up for any sport. But the baseball rules, it's a big reason why those numbers that average age has gone down.
Definitely. It's really good work by them. And I'll tell you what, this is the first that I can think of. I'm trying to think back to other sports. Like the first big integral sweeping change that really changed the face of a game that I can remember in like my adult life. I'm trying to think of other things that were like football did some stuff like they outlawed the wedge on kickoffs. Like I don't really care about that.
Well, I mean, the protection of quarterbacks.
Yeah, but that's a general
changes.
thing, right?
Well,
like over the course of time, you can't hit them low, and then you can't touch their head, and then you can't.
Yeah, but look at what it did for I know the scoring total isn't that high through 2 weeks in the NFL, but you know how it gets as the season progresses.
Right.
And that's when you see quarterbacks put up these incredible numbers and wide receivers are making incredible highlight reel plays that are all over TV. And then we're talking about the next day on the radio. And, it adds to your fantasy implications. So I do think that that's changed a lot.
It's a big change, but that's the thing. It's not just like that's been a gradual shift towards that. The league has reacted to what's going on. This has been over the course of a year, baseball went from no universal DH to you got a DH on every team. You got a pitch clock. It's running faster. Games are short. You're stealing bases again. Different size base. No disengagements. Like a lot of stuff has changed. The pinch runner on second, or the ghost runner on second, rather. Like a lot of stuff has changed over the past 3 years that has brought baseball back to relevancy.
Yeah, and that's good. And it's just funny that I haven't heard anybody complain anymore. Right? Like how many complaints did we hear before the season started?
So many.
Oh, I don't like this. Like, I like going to the ballpark and sitting there for 4 hours. Yeah, so do I. I'll be honest, I also like getting home before 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's been nice. It's been nice. Like, the only thing that I don't like when I'm at home is the 6:40 start. And it's personal because of the baby. All of a sudden, it's bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's 40 minutes or
you
so.
Missed the first couple innings.
All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, my God, it's the 5th inning already. And it's because of the pitch clock.
Yeah, it's tough for getting like a beer at the ballpark, too.
Yes.
Like, you're in line for 30 minutes, and then next thing you know, you missed 6 innings of baseball.
At this point, you just have to depend on the vendor going up and down the aisles.
It's true.
Because you don't want to get up and walk away. Because like you said, you miss a full inning, not half inning. You could miss a full inning, depending on who's on the mound and how quick they are with the pitch clock and how quick they work. And if they're really good, the pitchers, yeah, you could miss out an entire inning in baseball.
It's tough.
It is.
Got to balance the beer consumption with the baseball.
Yes. That is true.
But it's a good rule.
It is.
Like all of them are good rules.
All right, so we had Jeff McClain on earlier today talking to Eagles. You can check that out again on 97.5, thefanatic.com. Tomorrow is a Wednesday, so we'll be back tomorrow. Best show ever coming your way next at 2 o'clock. So tomorrow, it's that weird spot because usually Wednesday in the week is when we start turning our attention to the following football game for the Birds. But the Eagles don't play until Monday night. when they go to Tampa to take on the Bucs. So we'll obviously start paying attention to that matchup a little bit more. Some more national football stuff as well. Wednesdays, I want to start doing that. Look at the NFC teams, the teams that could compete with the Eagles to get to the Super Bowl. So we look at the NFC East. We look at some of the other teams in the NFC. We'll see if there are teams that we should start respecting a little bit more, like maybe the Rams, right? They climbed up in the power rankings as we went through them today. So we'll do that tomorrow. More on this Sixer stuff. I want to dive more into this James Harden thing because I do think a bought-in James Harden still gives this team their best chance of winning something. And we'll react to Phillies Braves, game number 2. Game number 2 of that series is tonight. And this is another opportunity where you go, hey, make another statement and start making those fans in Atlanta scared and start making those players scared. Christopher Sanchez getting the start today for the Phillies, going up against Spencer Strider. I would
Rock
like
the
to,
mustache.
dude. I would love for him to start, peeing his pants a little bit, like bash the guy tonight and make him think about what is to come in the playoffs if you could face him again. And I hope another win tonight for the Phillies would make people feel a little bit better. And if they lose, well, I don't want you tweeting me train gifts or anything like that. Is that a fair deal?
Totally fair.
I would appreciate that. Everybody have a great rest of your day. And I'll be back tomorrow right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.